Like to call the meeting of the Public Service Committee, October 26, 2009, at 5:30 p.m. to order. We have an invocation by Councilperson Williams and a pledge by Councilperson Clayton Wazan.
Dear Lord, we're asking that your divine grace would rule this meeting, that you would give peace to the families that lost children this weekend, and Lord, that our children would become more wiser to the things that they see on the road. Jesus, we're asking that you give us strength to do the right thing for this parish and those that we were elected to represent. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you all very much. Roll call, please.
Ms. Cavalier? Mr. Sehan?
Here.
Mr. Hebert? Mr. Lambert? Mr. Pizzolatto? Mr. Tillman? Mr. Wazan? Mr. Kevin? Ms. Williams? Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Item 1, resolution awarding the bid on the East Street Sewer Lift Station Force Main Relocation Project to WGS Contractors Incorporated in the amount of $33,852. Moved by Mr. Kevin Wazan, second by Mr. Alvin Tillman. Seeing no lights, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 2, resolution ratifying the parish president's appointment of Shaw Coastal Incorporated to continue providing engineering services relative to the Ashland Landfill Groundwater Monitoring Program.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Hebert, second by Mr. Kevin Wazan. Seeing no lights, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 3, resolution ratifying the parish president's appointment of Shaw Coastal Incorporated to provide engineering services relative to the Ashland Pickup Station Tipping Floor Repair Project.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Clayton Wazan, second by Mr. Pete Lambert. Seeing no lights, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 4, resolution awarding a contract to AAR Electronics Incorporated for the council meeting room audio/video system upgrade project and authorizing the parish president to contract for council meeting room audio-video upgrade. Moved by Mr. Kevin Wazan, second by Mr. Clayton Wazan. Ms. Cavalier.
Yes. Who's handling this? Hi.
Try again?
Tom Berg, Utilities Director.
Is this the system that they came and they showed us the
Yes,
other
ma'am,
night?
it is. Right.
When you compare the two systems, is it based on cost only that you chose this one? Or?
No, ma'am. Couple of things. I don't know, how much detail you want, but the existing systems you have are basically an AMX microphone control system that the chairman is operating here. You have a Daktronics voting system that Mr. Labat operates on the rare occasions that you use it, and you have a couple of fixed video cameras. The Taden system that is proposed here is an integrated, let me mention also that both your Daktronics voting system and your AMX microphone control system are no longer supported. They're legacy systems, their days are gone, parts are not available, service is not available. So if either one of those goes down today, you'll be dead in the water for some time. The Taden system that is proposed is really a system built exclusively for this type application. It is an integrated microphone control, video, and voting system. Okay, it has a feature that was demonstrated for you called camera follow audio. When a microphone is recognized, the cameras automatically go to that point or to some pre-designated point. So it looks like a pretty good system. We spoke to the city of La Crosse, Wisconsin, that uses that system. Their IT manager was very complimentary, said it's been great, works very well for them. The alternative that we looked at was augmenting your existing system to upgrade only the video, basically new cameras and switching. It does not have the camera follow audio feature. Now AMX, which is I would characterize as a very high-end system, AMX does offer or have a box, if you will, that can accomplish that task. It is integrated microphone control and voting, and has the capability of doing camera follow audio. However, that would be at least $100,000 add to their bid, which was around the same price as this system. So you'd be somewhere in the neighborhood of approaching $200,000 or $175,000 for the AMX equivalent to this system. Realistically speaking, I would say that my opinion is the AMX would be probably a better, high-end system if you want to spend, $175,000. But the Taden seems to be a system designed for your application. It has good reviews, and we think we can accomplish the task for much less dollars.
The 4 monitors that they have listed here for $5,000 total, are we buying those monitors, or are we gonna try and get them cheaper somewhere else?
No, that's about the going price. I mean, it's a package system all to work together. You're talking about the
Okay, after you have the total, you
Yes.
have listed 4 monitors. It says, wait, 4 each, 42-inch LCD monitor at $1,295. In the school that I work at, we got cameras, and the first monitor that we got, we paid over $1,000 for, and then we realized real quick we could go down there to Sam's and we could get the same monitor for like, $500. So that's why I'm questioning this. Are we getting this monitor, or have we tried to see if we can get another monitor that's compatible?
Yeah, I think if you look at the 4 42-inch LCD monitors, that was their original proposal. In the negotiation, actually, you will see adjustments that those 4 monitors are taken out, which deducts the $1,200 a piece, so it goes to the $5,000 comes out, and then they are actually adding one 42-inch monitor at no charge. The owner of AAR, basically, as he presented it to me, has a very high quality monitor, but it is refurbished, and he knew that we would not authorize the purchase of a refurbished item, so he has said that he has repaired that and is going to donate it for our use with this system. So
Is it under warranty?
the whole system is going to be under warranty
refurbished
for a
also?
year. Yes.
Because, if we get it after 6 months, it doesn't work, and we got to buy one anyway, all you did was put us off 6 months buying the
Right.
original number.
I understand. But
So what's the warranty on it?
The understanding of this system is that it is, and we haven't finalized the contract, but parts and labor warranty for 1 year.
That's only one, there's no better warranty than that? Sears, you can get 3 years. You pay for it, but you get it.
Yeah. Well, we have.
That's Sears,
yeah.
and this is a high end.
We have discussed an option of an extended maintenance plan. That's something we've discussed.
How
but
much is
haven't-
that?
I have the proposals, but we're not proposing it tonight. I think it was about $500 a month, and it was to stock some critical spares, as well as to take care of whatever maintenance issues may come up.
Question for Ms. Elford.
Ms. Alfred?
Ms. Elford, the last time this system went down, about how much does that cost to repair it when it goes down? You don't know right offhand?
I don't know.
How old is this system that we're using?
94, 96. Yeah.
So it's, so 2000, so we're looking at, it's 10 years old? And how many times is this broken already? So if this has the ability to break several times after the 1 year warranty, what kind of costs are we looking at incurring?
think that would depend entirely on what breaks. It's impossible for me to predict what a repair cost would be at some point in the future.
But is this system, like the system we have now, in 5 years it's gonna be outdated? We're not gonna be able to get parts and all for it. See, I don't know anything about electronics.
Right.
So, you know, this sounds great. It's pretty on paper and everything, but, you know, I mean, we're trusting you that this is a good system, but 10 years ago, or whatever, everybody thought this was a good system
Well,
that we got, you know?
I think, you know, generally speaking about the current state of electronics and the advancements, that, you know, this system was probably due for replacement long before now. Just that, you know, the way it's arranged, it's an analog system. Its technology was superseded long ago. I would expect at the current rate of things that long before you see serious maintenance problems with this system, there will be something new and better out there available. The question is whether you act in time to, you know, to maintain that upgrade. I think you're long overdue for an upgrade at this point, considering that the equipment you have is no longer manufactured nor supported.
Okay, put this at my level. You buy a Ford, and a mechanic who can work on a Ford can work on all Fords.
Right.
Okay? Is this a model that can be used? Is this across the board? This is an electronic model that all the people that do this sort of thing knows about.
I would say the current state of electronics is such that even in this is a integrated, not a component system as far as having individual components. But I will say that whether it were a component system or this system, when you talk about the black box, the electronic components themselves, very rarely are you going to find a component these days that somebody is going to open up that box and perform surgery on it with a soldering iron. It is either a card replacement or throw the item out and get another one. So, you know, the days of actually soldering wires and doing electronics repairs, I think, are behind us.
So in reality, in 5 years, we could be looking at a new system because this system fails. Because all we got is a 1-year warranty.
Well, we can inquire about an extended warranty if you like. But generally speaking, I think what you'll find is what you spend on some type of extended warranty is going to be a better investment in keeping pace with technology. That's generally the case. I think that most people will recommend that you not buy that Sears warranty. Put the money in your pocket, and when it breaks, buy a new one. That's the general way of thinking.
No more questions.
Thank you, Ms. Cavalier. Mr. Kevin Wazan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I know a ton about electronics, and this looks really good to me. I think that although the other system that was a lot more expensive, it was certainly superior as far as technical specs, I mean, but we're not broadcasting live HD LSU football games here. I mean, we don't need the high definition resolution on our faces. I think that for the money, but even in the action and everything, it's an absolutely great system. I mean, I like the system more before I knew it was cheaper, which always is a good thing. I think it integrates well. It's got great technical specs. A 1-year warranty in the tech world, just to give you guys kind of a backdrop, that's a long time. I mean, most warranties in the tech world are 90 days. And the reason that they're 90 days is the way that the circuitry is put together and the way that the different components go. If it's going to break, it usually breaks right away, because if there's some short that was made when they were forming the chips or whatever, it's going to happen right away. They usually break in the first month or two, or they don't break for 10, 20 years. It's just, that tends to be how it is. And so a 90-day warranty is standard in almost all electronics. 1 year is actually pretty long, in my opinion. I mean, coming from the tech world, 1 year sounds great. As far as a refurbished monitor, that's so common as to be ubiquitous. We don't have one monitor at my company that's not refurbished. They last forever. The reason that the proprietor is probably so willing to give a refurbished monitor and put it under warranty is because monitors just almost never break anymore. I mean, they're really easy technology. It's refurbed probably because it was dropped in shipment and they had to put a new back on it or something like that. Real simple. And hey, it's under warranty. I'm telling you, with computer stuff, if it lasts a year, the chances are it's going to last a lot longer. Unless something weird happens where you get a power surge or something like that. But in either case, I think would be good. I think this is a great system. It's going to move us forward, and I'm all for it. I say we go. I say we needed it about 5 years ago, but I'll vote for it today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wazan. Mr. Tillman, you're
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A question for Mr. Berg.
Sure.
Mr. Berg, this system seems to be the system that's going to address the problem that we have, that public that's watching and listening will be able not only to listen to us, but actually be able to see who's speaking.
Yes, sir.
You know, if we could have got that for $2, I'm for it, because basically what we're looking for, people want to be able to see you. You know, and there's so many complaints that we get about our system. You know, but we started somewhere, and I think that was a great start. I think this upgrade is way overdue. You know, you go out there in the public, and folks say, "Man, look, I watch you guys. I listen to you guys on television, and man, I know your voice right off now, Mr. Tillman. I know your voice. But it'd be nice if we could see you guys. You know, I believe this is going to certainly do what we needed to do. I think the public's going to be well satisfied with it. And like I said, I think it's long overdue. I think it was antiquated the day after we got it. That's just the way technology is today, you know. But I'm excited about this. I think you're going to certainly make a lot of our public happy, and that's the ones that are watching out there. And with them watching, and they're complaining about it, public saying, we want you to do something about it. And I'm looking forward to it tonight, and I'm excited to get it done. Now, the other question is that if this is passed, how long would it be after that the system would actually be put in place? How long would that take?
My recollection is, you know, first we have to draft a specific contract to cover all the things we've talked about that are reflected in the proposal. But following that, I believe the delivery was 3 to 4 weeks, maybe 6 weeks, and then we're looking at the schedule now for maybe a meeting opportunity where there's a 3-week holdover. I would like to see, and what originally was in the proposal is a setup and testing prior to installation. We want to get everything put together, make sure all the components are there, make sure it all works okay and is well tested before we do the changeover. And then hopefully we're going to look closely, but probably look for a 3-week time period, you know, where there's a lapse in council meetings to do the switchover.
Now, I don't know, maybe I missed something, but I know since I've been here as a council person, and I think that was the year, you know, we put the system in place, I think back in 2000. But my recollection that I don't ever recall us not really, you know, being down as a council here at the meeting, not able to have our meeting because the technology kind of shut down on us, or have it ever been whereas as it relates to the television audience, was there a time that they weren't able to view this meeting?
I haven't had a whole lot of experience with this system. I know there was a period of months that the LED board back there was out. I don't know if the microphones were out at the same time, and I think maybe the voting was out at one time.
So as far as you know, as far as the viewing part of it, you don't recall whereas we had a problem where we could not view.
No, sir. We've had some tape difficulties and some switching difficulties.
Yeah, and you always.
But as far as I know, we really haven't had any problems with the actually with the video system. You know, there's just the two fixed cameras.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Burke. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Tillman. Mr. LeBon.
Yes, sir. One of the things I just want to bring to the council's attention, the current system is managed by a firm in Baton Rouge. And Ms. Thomas reminded me it's $1,500 every time he comes from Baton Rouge to check on something. So we had to have had him come down several times just to make a check on things to make sure that following night the meetings was working. Another good thing about the new system is that it's going to be able to record instead of having a little tape. everything can be recorded on the computer directly and saved on computer, which will save a lot of time. So I just wanted to bring those 2 points to y'all.
Thank you, Mr. Labat. Mr. Clayton Wazan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tom, would you maybe have the numbers, you or Jamie maybe have the numbers of what this system we're presently working with cost us back in '03?
I don't, I do have I have the original specifications.
Yeah.
But I think it was actually part of the entire architectural package. I never did see a price proposal form, so I don't know if it was split out as a separate item.
Well, as I recall, I think originally we had bid out for 4 cameras, and we cut back, I think, to 2 cameras.
Okay.
I have to tell you, back then, the sitting council was under some scrutiny. I'm sure Mr. Tillman recalls, and you guys probably recall, we were under some scrutiny about the price that we paid for the building and all of this. So we were trying to cut corners. And as I recall at that time, I was on a committee of 3 council members that was meeting with the parish president at the time to find out how to cut costs and everything else to make this thing work, and without undergoing too much scrutiny. And we certainly didn't choose the best system available. The system that we're working with right now, I think Mr. Tillman mentions that it was probably antiquated the day after. I think it was antiquated when we bought it in actuality. But we've had several problems with the system through the years, and that I can recall. And with the board being out, at one time, I think, Mr. Labat, you might correct me, but I think on some occasions we had the guy here like 3 or 4 weeks in a row trying to maintain. We've had times when the board that the chairman sits in front of would go out completely, and we didn't know what lights to turn on, or it would show us the wrong lights. It would erase lights. Just a bunch of problems. And I happened to be in the building one day when Mr. Berg and the guys from AAR were here, and Tom called me in this room for a minute to speak with him, and went over some of the things with him, the camera system and the audio. And I tell you, I can't say that it's a bargain, because I don't think anything's a bargain anymore. But I think that our public deserves to be able to view this council as we debate and other forms of government as they debate maybe in this room. I certainly think it's a wise choice, and I'm certainly going to support it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Wazan. Ms. Cavalier?
Ms. Alford, does this come out of this year's budget or next year's budget?
It's actually in place now, and it has been in place for a couple of years.
And we have enough money to cover it?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
If I may speak
Yes.
to that point.
That would be fine through the chair.
Sure.
Yes. Our recommendation, I believe the budgeted amount is $75,000. Our recommendation is to award within that amount, and I'm trying to get to the page, but I think we showed you a subtotal before 2 options. After the options, it's 81,000, I think. Before the options, it's 74 something. And we would at this point like to discuss with you and suggest, first, that of course you authorize us to proceed with this contract, but that we also give consideration to a contract change order for those options. Just to mention to you briefly what they are. One of them is for a dual control. So that the chairman appears to always know what he's doing. It would give Mr. Labat a alternate control, whether it's to set up voting or to assist with microphone control or any other type control. So we feel like that would be or in case one of the controls would go out, it would be a redundant control. That's one option. The second is a video mixer that would give us some capability in doing transitions rather than a hard cut from one picture to another picture. It would allow us to do some transitions, but mostly important, picture-in-picture, because there is some consideration of perhaps doing signage for the deaf and hard of hearing, where we could insert, do an inset picture with that signing. So those are 2 options. The budget doesn't allow for now, but we'd strongly consider recommend consideration of going forward, so.
Ms. Cavalier, you
I'm
finished?
finished.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Mr. Kevin Wazan?
I'd like to amend to go ahead and allow for the changes as well. I think that's fantastic. I mean, it may solve some of our, we talked about earlier, trying to get this, what was it, closed caption. I know what they do in Florida is they have an interpreter and they picture it. And then moving forward, eventually, we're gonna need to get to something like that. And I think it's absolutely fantastic. So, thank you.
Good deal.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Wazan. Okay, seeing no other lights, thank you, Mr. Byrd. We have a motion and a second on the floor. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 5, resolution providing for the approval of task order number 3 to the master service agreement between Camp Dresser and McKee Incorporated for Incorporated and TPCG for the development of the CDBG project development plan and design process flowchart. Moved by Ms. Williams. Second by Mr. Tillman. Seeing no lights, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 6, resolution authorizing the execution of change order number 4 for the construction agreement with Philway Construction LLC for the Lower Ward 7 levee maintenance interim lift north of Boudreaux Canal to south of Lashbrook Pump Station. Project increase 11 calendar days. Moved by Mr. Lambert, second by Ms. Williams. Seeing no lights, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 7, discussion and possible action with respect to expanding the routes and services of the Good Earth Transit System. Have a speaker, Ms. Ann Mear, local resident, wishes to address the committee.
Right here.
Ms. Mear, your name and address for the,
Okay, my name is Anna Dolores Mear,
Okay.
and my address is 202 Jefferson Drive in Summerfield. And I'm here to request an expansion of the public transportation route from Tunnel Boulevard down St. Charles Street, possibly all the way to Valhalla Street. And the reason why I'm requesting this is to show you that the need for public transportation includes all socioeconomic groups. I am visually impaired. I've been losing my vision for quite a few years, but the last 4 years I've lost my vision. So therefore, I need public transportation, but I don't have any in my area. My husband works, and I would very much like to be able to go and do my shopping and to live as normal a life as I possibly can. I just completed a 6-month school in Lafayette and for the blind, where we did all sorts of things, and I learned all wonderful skills. But one of the skills I learned was how to use the public transportation system. And I was able to go all over Lafayette. I went everywhere in Lafayette using public transportation, and also was taught that once I get to a store or Walmart or wherever I wanted to shop, how to get assistance from the service departments and so on and so forth. So there is a need out there that is for public transportation that includes socioeconomic groups across the board, and that is my request. Thank you.
thank you, ma'am. Have one speaker card, Mr. Mickey Fonseca.
Good evening, councilman and councilperson. My name is Mickey Fonseca. I live at 253 Magnolia, apartment 2, Houma, Louisiana. I'm totally agree with the expansion. As I was saying last set of meetings when I spoke about this, there's a need to go to the mental health center, and people have to walk down St. Charles Street and then back down 311 to go to the mental health center. And I think it would be the best interest to help them get there if they don't have a person like a case manager like I do, who can bring me. But if the case manager can't bring me for some reason, I could take the bus system because Stark gives us bus passes to let us ride the bus. So if something happens, the case manager has another client who has another appointment somewhere else to get, she needs to get to. That's more important. I always can use the bus system to get to get to the mental health center because I'm allowed to get so many bus passes a month from Stark. So I think it's a good idea. I agree with Miss Mia. Expanding the bus service would be a best for the parish. There is a need for it. I don't know. I'm not sure how many handicapped citizens we got in the city, but in the parish. But I know it helps me very much, and it's very important to me. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fonseca. Mr. Kevin Wazan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate Ms. Anna Mir coming out, and there are many other constituents who are similar, who they just want to live a normal life, as normal as they can, and they've had something go wrong or have a different set of challenges than most of us, and I've said it before, and I'll be brief, which will shock most people, but I just think the bus is a different animal than it was 15, 20 years ago. If we keep thinking of the Good Earth Transit as something that only serves a certain group of people who may own less cars, we're going to really miss out on some of the benefit we can get out of this. There's a real green movement that's happening, whether you're for it or against it. A lot more people would use the bus if they could. I will just go ahead and make routes, through places like Summerfield and South Down West that teenagers could use, that you'd be surprised the amount of housewives that would use it just to save the gas. When we first put out recycle bins, I got to be very honest, I had a core group of friends I thought maybe would use it, but otherwise those things would sit empty. I don't know if you pass by a recycle bin on a Saturday or not. Every single week on Saturday, there's so much recycling that's happening that doesn't fit in the bin every week, and I live less than 2 blocks away from mine, so I see it all the time. It's always overflowing, and I think that these things are kind of related. So it's our transit system hopefully will grow, as our constituents' needs are, and I really think that there's a different attitude to the bus, and people would use it if it was made available to them. And I'm hoping that we can push that and push the envelope in a responsible way. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Wazan. Mr. Clayton Wazan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I see Wendell was at a director for the transit system in the audience. If I could get him up maybe to ask a question or two.
Wendell Wazan, Public Transit Administrator.
Thank you, Mr. Wazan. You heard the request, and I think this has been something that's been on our plate for 2 or 4 weeks now. Have you had any opportunity yet to survey this as the request for serving the Summerfield area? And I think there's another area down 311 near Summerfield that we had discussed, I think, 2 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago. Can you tell us if you've had a chance to look at those situations and if the probability or possibility of doing that and the possible increase in cost?
Yes, sir. As a matter of fact, we did discuss this and go ahead and take a look at it. One of the things that we did, we have a data model that we use to help us forecast ridership for the bus system. So we went ahead, we laid out a route to the best of our ability to try to incorporate as many of the major attractors in the area, put them in a route, and try to serve the needs for students going to and from the library through the Summerfield area. And we went ahead, we got the appropriate data and plugged it into the model, and our analysis indicated we would get about 13,000 trips a year out of that route, which is about half of what our current routes are on the east side, which are our lower performing routes. So on that basis, when you look at the cost and the time involved, I think our costs were around, under the best scenario, about 180,000 per year, additional costs to provide that service. For the estimated ridership that we had, we didn't feel as though it would be in the best interest of the parish to recommend that. So we had to recommend against doing so, establishing a new route out there.
To establish a new route or to extend the routes to this location, will we need more buses? Will we need to cut something out that we're presently doing, maybe slow performing or non-performing routes or something?
Well, that would be one way of doing it. We had looked at adding an additional route and being on the basis, running about 10 times a day, which would provide a similar, on a bus hour basis to the rest of the routes. Okay, so about a similar amount of service. Okay. Certainly, that would require additional people, additional revenue and resources, which we would definitely have to do it. Another way of providing the service would be to cut out service someplace else and apply it there, which you could do roughly for no cost, but it would be difficult to take away ridership that would estimate it being higher to put it in a place where you're forecasting lower ridership. So, you don't really gain by doing that.
Yeah, okay. I see quite a few other lights, so I'll pass my light at this time. Thank you, Mr. Voisin, for the information.
Thank you, Mr. Wazan. Ms. Cavalier?
Mr. Wazan, what about the 311 where the mental health center is? Is that included in that data that you collected? Because Mickey's request was that there be a stop in front of the mental health.
Yes,
center.
that was one of the destinations that we included when we evaluated a route. We thought that it was an important place, and it was a place where a lot of people need to go. But it's to stand alone, it would be difficult to try to do it. So we tried to incorporate more destinations, major destinations, to try to build a ridership as high as we could in the model. Yes, it was included.
So there's no other way to get to that 311 area, even if you didn't go into the Summerfield area?
Yes, the only other way to do it would possibly be to modify the current route which travels on West Tunnel Boulevard and go up Polk Street and follow Highway 311 and back down St. Charles. Mm-hmm. That's a viable alternative. Yes.
When you get these grants for the public transportation, what is the criteria that you service? Urban, rural?
Well, it depends on which section you're applying for. The section that funds the urban transit specifically is to fund the urban area. So, there are criteria that's involved with that. So the 5307 fund, which we normally use for that, is strictly for urbanized area.
Is the 311 where the mental health center located, is that considered an urban area?
Yes, ma'am, it is included in the urbanized area.
And the rural area that we pick up all the way to Nichols State and we bring back to Homa, that's under a different grant?
No, ma'am, the urbanized area extends all the way to Thibodeau.
Okay. So
Along Highway 24.
it's not city limits then?
No, ma'am, it doesn't follow any political boundaries.
It has to stay on a state highway?
No, ma'am.
No, not at all. Okay.
It just has to remain within the metropolitan area.
So this council could direct you to jot down St. Charles, go across 311, come up, back up Polk Street or whatever it is that worked, and you would do it?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that easy?
Yeah, yeah.
I make a motion that they go up, down, round, whatever we got to do. St. Charles, 311, come back Polk. Somehow, I'm not sitting here, thinking that every route should go by there. Is it possible that when a rider gets on there, they can tell you, I need to go to, and could tell the driver, and then the driver could go on that route? Otherwise, it would still go on tunnel.
Well, I wouldn't recommend that for a fixed route to run it into. That's a different mode of service. Mm-hmm. But
on a need basis,
what we could do maybe is run certain trips, have them scheduled to go by especially during the operating hours of the mental health unit. We could see what those hours are and run certain buses through there that would fall within those hours. So, yeah, we could do that.
Okay, my motion is that they do this and the feasibility of this and report back to us in 2 weeks. Because I'd like to see, I don't want to, at this time, put that up there and we vote on it a yes or no and maybe lose out or maybe do something that would bite us later. So I'd like to see what he just proposed and how much that, is going to cost us to go. I want him to do it, but I want to know how much it's going to cost before I vote on it. Then it's a feasibility. But I don't want to say do it and then it's $2 million.
No,
I can't do that either, but I just didn't know how easy it was to alter a route. I thought there were certain guidelines that we had to stay within for the grants.
Well, there are certain guidelines, and of course, we wouldn't recommend that you do anything would be in violation of that, But I think we could work something out on that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Ms. Cavalier, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Before we vote, you want to hear the rest of the lights?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Mr. Pizzolata.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Wazan, I liked your idea of going to the mental health center 5 days a week from 8 to 4:30. I think that's their time frame. And of course, you'll check it out.
Yes, sir.
And then it wouldn't be that great of a thing. You wouldn't be running it as long as you run the other routes, and you would only be running it during the 5 day when the center's open.
Well, that would be the idea.
I would hope that's what you come back with. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pizzolata. Ms. Williams?
Yes. Just to add on to what they just said, you said that we can do the thing where we're coming off of Main off of Tunnel, down Polk, down 311 onto St. Charles. If that is done, I know that we're saying 5 days a week for mental health, but if we do it on the regular, that would actually help Miss Meir because she would be placed in the paratransit area.
I'm not exactly sure whether that would place her in there or not.
It would.
We
If
would
we
have
could
to
get a bus to go to
evaluate
St.
that.
If we could get a bus to go to St. Charles Street, that's all she's asking. It would put her in that area, and it would kind of doubly serve. It would take care of everything if you could just do the one little veer off, and also in checking the feasibility out. I think you might already have some cost. Do you with you about this alternate route?
I beg your pardon?
Do you have some cost with you now already about this alternate route?
No, ma'am. I haven't prepared a cost evaluation for doing an alternative because I'd have to calculate out exactly how much time and how many trips a day that would be involved in it. And if we're going to limit it to certain days and certain hours, then that would impact the cost of it.
And what's the earliest the buses start to run?
They start about 6 o'clock in the morning. 5:30, 6 o'clock, first buses are coming out.
Because I would like to see that 7:30 bus going to mental health, because if they have an 8 o'clock appointment, it wouldn't make any sense to start at 8 o'clock, and then some of these people are there all day long till 4:30.
Right. Well, my hopes would be that we could do this without having to revise our schedule to a great deal. But we would definitely take a look at that and see how many trips fall
Because if you can do that,
within.
then you're going to get in mental health, ADAC, and Miss Meir, and all three would be serviced and mission would be accomplished.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Mr. Hebert.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This doesn't concern the item, but while you're up there, I had a request from the Chase Bank on the air base, the employees. They have a couple of elderly clients that visit the bank, and when they leave, they go to the bus stop to catch the bus to go back home, and somehow or another the bench has disappeared from that. I don't know if you were aware of that or not. Could you check that out and see if the bench is there? Evidently it's left the bus stop, and those people have to stand up waiting there a half hour for the bus. So if you could check into that for me, I'd appreciate it. Just a request.
Okay.
While I got you up there. Thank you. That's it, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Hebert. Mr. Kevin Wazan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple questions. St. Charles would be included in the urban service district, is that correct? Or the urban area that you would need to be?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
St. Charles is.
I just want to make sure that we hear that. Your actual ridership is 26,000 rides per on most of the routes that you have right now? Or is that the study numbers? I didn't quite understand if you were saying the study showed there would be that many currently, or if there were actually that many.
About, the study showed, you're talking about 13,000?
Right.
Trips per,
And your actual ridership on your other ones is 26,000. Is that what you're saying?
it's probably close to that. I'm not exactly sure.
Okay. I mean, I understand the study. The study is largely based on the number of cars in the area, which would tend to throw it off. For my district, obviously, if we're talking about people who want to use it for fun, they have car as well. And if we're talking about getting back and forth to the library for teenagers and things, you're going to have cars at the house. It's just those aren't the people who would use the bus. That's okay. I'm 100% in agreement with Ms. Arlonda Williams. I think that solves everything. We got to not get ourselves locked into. I mean, this is a nice route, and it's exactly what we started off talking about, and it gets the DMV and things that maybe just need to get thrown out. But let's look for that third solution that's just a hybrid that we can just stretch it. I think that sounds like it's it, and I'm 100% in favor of that too. So thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Wazan. Mr. Tillman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Wazan, you mentioned earlier that the possibility of expanding the route may lead to eliminating or starting some routes in other areas. Would this particular scenario in which being discussed with Ms. Williams at this point, would that lead to any reduction in routed service in other areas?
Just thinking about it offhand, I think we can probably do it without having to cut other routes.
Good, excellent. Because I said it because we don't want to resolve a problem by creating another problem. So, if we can do that, that would certainly be fantastic. All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Tillman. Seeing no other lights, thank you, Mr. Wazan.
Okay, thank you.
We have a motion on the floor and a second to do a feasibility study. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 8, discussion and possible action with respect to the traffic conditions along Highway 24 north and south between H.L. Bourgeois High School and Evergreen Junior High School. Ms. Cavalier.
Yes. First of all, I'd like to thank administration. Mr. Pat Gordon showed up, and I met with Mr. Dennis Hebert and Mr. Lambert with the state. And Mr. Hebert and his office went out and did this study. We saw him. It was funny because all the teachers who had complained and all the parents who had complained, the phone was ringing in my office for a couple of days. Terry, they're out there. They love to see that, And then I got a lot of calls from other people that when they read it in the paper, they were, saying, yes, Terry, this is a problem. What Mr. Hebert explained to me after doing this study is, first of all, there's no way to solve the problem. The problem lasts for approximately 25 minutes. We have so many people that have to get through that area in that amount of time. Building another lane, stopping people, putting lights, none of that would work. And he had numbers to back him up. What he said was, in essence, if you need to get somewhere, you need to leave 5 minutes earlier. And in time, it may be that you have to leave 10 minutes earlier. But the recommendations that he made was that the crossing guards are the key ingredient to this flow, and they are doing a good job. I know people think they're not because they have to sit in traffic, but they timed it. It was only a matter of minutes from when you stop for the first time and you get through the traffic in both locations. There were some safety measures that they had included, and they said would make for a better environment for our kids. Those I need to get with Mr. Sheriff Bourgeois because the crossing guards do work for him. But really and truly, when he timed it, and I was amazed, in front of Evergreen, when you're coming south on 24, it's a matter of 4 minutes from when you stop for the first time, which in some cases is as far back as 500 feet before the caution lights. The people who travel this will know. And when you actually get to the Coteau light. The Coteau light cannot be changed because the bridge length is not adequate. He said that. That bridge has been there since before us. And the light has to be set as is so that that bridge can clear. If it had more length and we could stack more cars, then he could fool with the light. He can't fool with the light. So in the morning and in the afternoon, you have to just fight that traffic. At the Bourgeois congestion, he went to every bridge and he timed it and how long it took to go through it. And he said there's nothing that we can do again there. No turning lanes, no traffic signals. He came off of the Highway 90 and pretended that he went to HL, and he turned and went in as anyone else would have to. And again, it was only a matter of a few minutes. It seems like a long time, and he said that too. And he said, you know, when you got these kids running back and forth in front of McDonald's, it's very, very distracting. But he said, again, that the crossing guards and the sheriff's office, we could work on some matters to make it safer. We've got bridges coming and we've got sidewalks coming, and those are going to help the problem. But there's no solution. But I do appreciate the state, and I do appreciate administration backing us to try and find something that would work better. We just have to leave for work earlier, and we're going to get home a little later. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cavalier. No action necessary? Item 9, discussion and possible action with respect to the need to clean the CCC ditch for drainage purposes. Ms. Cavalier.
Yes, Mr. Bush, please.
Greg Bush, Public Works.
Hi, Greg.
Hi.
We had a rain approximately 4 weeks ago. It was a regular rain. This was not a March event, a May event, 100-year flood, 1,000-year flood. And I had flooding in southern estates. I called, and immediately administration was out there. We laughed because there were 4 department heads that came in. Greg was on the phone. I mean, I cannot say anything about the response that happened. My problem is that the problem occurred at all. I am aware of the CCC ditch and all of the potential that can happen in a rain. I travel from Coteau Road to Rhett and Marietta Place every time it rains. Now, if I can do this, why can't you? Why can't you have a man that once a month, on the 1st of the month, on the 10th, whatever day you pick, he knows when he gets out of bed, he's got to walk from Coteau Road to Marietta Place. And if he sees any blockage, he lets somebody know. Because as soon as y'all got rid of the blockage, we no longer had flooding. I don't understand.
We currently do it 4 times a year.
We need to do it every month.
If you want to do it once a month,
please.
I can certainly take someone from someplace else and do that.
People, I need you to drive through southern estates. I need you to drive down Marietta and Rhett, and I need you to understand that this skinny little ditch is what is the artery for all the new development I have going on in the north. I've got this apartment complex coming up. I've got this business complex that's coming up. I got Southern Estates that's got addendums coming out the wazoo. I've got people that are dependent on this, and they've got beautiful homes, life savings sunk into it. And a piece of tin got caught on a bridge piling and was about to bring the water into the whole subdivision. On Rhett and Marietta, I could not get my car through there to get to the back. The school bus lady told me when she got there that the water came in through the door. I can't say it enough. First of all, it needs to be widened. That artery right there, we have all this building going on, needs to be widened. But we've put all the sewage lines on there. So all of that has to be moved. All of our drainage and everything else is going through there. And until we widen that, we have got to take this, and it's got to be a monthly maintenance. I can't take this chance anymore. Alamos was backing up, Southern Estates, Rhett, Marietta. The only one that wasn't was down at Eureka. And that's because they're so far north that they had more time before it flowed down.
It'll be monthly.
Please.
I'll use the workforce crew.
Whatever we have to do, certain day.
If they find, the one doing the bayous, I'll use that crew.
That would be great.
And that way they can clean up any trash, particularly since you have the new subdivisions with construction going on.
All of them.
You're going to have that stuff get in that ditch.
That's exactly right. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Ms. Cavalier. Mr. Claudette?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wanted to also mention, and this can happen where you can walk through an artery one day and it blocks the next day. I just recently, since that incident occurs, if I drive along Bayou Terrebonne, I see people who have scraps of lumber, tin, right adjacent to the bayou. And all it takes is a rain event or some wind, and it's right in the bayou. And that should be, a message to all of our residents to please be careful with any debris that they might have. In addition to that, we're doing a number of items which we believe will be substantially improving those arteries, the CCC ditch, the St. Louis Canal, and St. Louis Bayou, all of which you'll be seeing in a very short period of time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Claude. No action necessary. Item 10, discussion and possible council action with respect to contracts for parish services, projects, or programs. Mr. Claude.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wanted to indicate, of course, we've all seen the news, and we're all very pleased that one of our former parish presidents, Bubba Lines, is now the interim parish president of Mandeville. Unfortunately, the incident occurred where Eddie Price was evidently involved in a way with Rick Meyer of Meyer Engineers and Don McMath of Mandeville, a Mandeville developer. We've checked our vendor list. We have not paid anything to these individuals since 2008. I will suggest this. Mr. Meyer did visit me at the parish at one time, but we have not given any work to his firm, and I'm not aware of anything that we've done with Mr. McMath. We just wanted to indicate that to you in case there was any questions from anybody in the public. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Claude. No action necessary. Item 11, update, status report, and possible action with respect to Victory Street in Chauvin. Mr. Lambert.
Yes, sir. Mr. Bush.
Greg Bush, Public Works.
Thank you, Greg. They presently tonight we just approved 11 days for Fieldway extension on that from Lashbrook to Boudreaux Canal. I was wondering if it's that asphalt road is almost all limestone now.
That's correct.
I was wondering when we would be able to make the permanent repairs on that road.
The permanent repair is included in the concrete portion of our maintenance contract. The specifications are being written now. I would hope that we'd have those specifications done within the next 2 weeks. Then we'll go out for bid. At that time, we'll schedule the repair to Victory Street at the conclusion of the contract. And remember, it is going to 8-inch concrete for the entire street.
Right. So it'll be able to, because we're all going to be lifting that levee another 2 feet, and we're going to be
well, that's our major
that.
access to the levee. So
Correct.
the idea was to make it industrial grade.
Right. Thank you very much, Mr. Bush.
Thank you, Mr. Lambert.
No action necessary.
Item 12, resolution requesting the governor and Terrebonne Parish's legislative delegation to request that the councils on aging remain under the jurisdiction of the governor's office of the elderly affairs.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Williams, second by Mr. Wazan. Seeing no lights, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Ms. Edmondson, did you want to say anything? Okay. That's it? Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Wazan.
Yes, if we might, I would like to direct Mr. Labat possibly that a copy of this resolution, after it's hopefully completed and goes through, that we send copies to our legislative delegation, to the governor's office, and also to the governor's office of elderly affairs. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wazan. All right. Item 13, resolution authorizing the filing of an application with the Louisiana Department of Transportation and Development for a grant under 49 CFR 5311 non-urbanized area formula program and/or 49 CFR 5309 discretionary capital program. Moved by Ms. Williams, second by Mr. Kevin Wazan. Seeing no lights, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Motion adjourned, Mr. Pizzolata. Second by Mr. Abear, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you all very much.
Get the 4-1.
We get the 4 items.
Just did public services. Can you do? Natural resources with their chemicals.
Alvin. Alvin.
Few minutes. Notice to the public, if you wish to address the committee, please complete public wishing to address committee form located on either side of the counter. Give it either to the chairperson or the council clerk prior to the beginning of the meeting. We also ask that individuals addressing the council should be respectful of others in their choice of words. And we also ask that all cell phone, electronic devices used for communication should be silent for the duration of this meeting. Meeting will start in 1 minute. If you need to fill out a card, please fill it out now. Once the meeting is started, we will not be accepting speaker cards. Thank you.
Got it.
Council members, take your seat, please. Okay, we're gonna call the meeting to order. We're gonna have invocation by Ms. Terry Cavalier. It is nice when folks be running around. I'll do it. That's great. I like that. I like that. I like that. Make my day. By Terry Cavalier, and we're gonna have the Pledge of Allegiance by Mr. Pete Lambert. Will everyone stand, please?
Dear Lord, we are truly blessed, and we are so very thankful for the blessings that we have. Please take care of our men that are overseas and our women, and please take care of their families here that wait for them. We ask all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Ms. Cavalier. Thank you, Mr. Lambert. Madam Secretary, roll call, please.
Ms. Cavalier, Mr. Sehan, Mr. Hebert, Mr. Lambert, Mr. Pizzolato, Mr. Tillman,
Here.
Mr. Wazan, Mr. Kevin, Ms. Williams. Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're
Item 1, consider the introduction of an ordinance to dedicate and accept the maintenance, operation of streets, drainage servitudes, and rights-of-way, to energize the street lights, to incorporate Emerson Drive, Ansley Place Apartment Access Road into enhanced 911 emergency response system, and call a public hearing on said matter on November 11, 2009 at 6:30 p.m. Mr. Guazan, Kevin?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a question to planning, if I could, through the chair.
Planning?
Do we have all of the and I'm for this, but do we have all the locations for the street lights in the GIS? I know I've had a lot of problems with new developments lately where that we accepted the street lights, but we never actually got them properly programmed into GIS. So we have lights that are going out that aren't in the system in some of my neighborhoods. And I just want to make sure on this, I'm going to ask the same thing on the next one, but.
Well, we'll make sure on both of them. Yes, they should have street lights if it's part of a subdivision. But if it's part of a street, then there are no street light requirements for an actual street. And this is a case that where only the road went to the engineering department to meet parish requirements and didn't go to the planning commission for approval. So to answer your question about the lights, we have no standards for lights along our streets. It's in subdivisions that we have streets.
So the lights
we have
will
light
be,
standards.
The lights will be picked up once they apply for some sort of, if they do subdivide it or.
What
I mean,
normally
are there
happens-
lights on this street that we're going to be? Because we're
When-
saying that we're responsible for the lights, so I want to make sure we're keeping track of what you know.
Well,
What
we'll
I'm,
maintain them, the lights thereafter, but you just have to call to have them energized by Energy or Sleeka to have some lights put on the poles along the roadway.
but I don't think we're communicating well.
Okay.
Let me start over. I'm confusing you. We're accepting the lights and things that come with this, and I'm not sure that all of the lights are getting put onto the GIS system. And I'll give you, for example, Sugarwood Estates subdivision. We've accepted all of the road lighting, and we've said yes, we're responsible. I think about a third of the lights aren't in our system, so when we call in to get them fixed, the utilities department and I end up kind of having this real headache where we have a hard time knowing what light we're talking about. We have a hard time explaining to Energy what type of light we're talking about because it's not in the GIS system. So we accepted them, but there wasn't a proper communication of where they are to the system.
I follow you now.
Okay, thanks.
And I'll check into that. I'd be glad to. Apparently, there's some lack of communication from when the plat is accepted to when GIS plugs it into the system.
Right, and I think that's a general problem, and I think you'd been working with Ms. Terrebonne on that before.
Yes.
But if we could just follow up, because it's one of those things that, I mean, if the lights don't burn out or a wind doesn't take out a bulb, it's just never a problem. But when it is a problem, like in Sugarwood, where for whatever reason this light that they put in there breaks every third day, it can really cause some confusion where we have crews going out to the wrong light because it's the light that was in GIS, but actually there's another light, 30 feet down. So if you could look into that, I'd
Yes.
appreciate it. Thank you. And I'd move this, Mr. Chair.
Moved by Mr. Kevin Wazan. Second by Mr. Clayton Wazan, Mr. Johnny Pizzolata. Mr. Clayton Wazan.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, through the chair, please, to Mr. Labat.
Mr. Labat.
Mr. Labat, the ordinance will read Emerson Drive rather than Emerson Road, is that correct?
It should have been Emerson Road. Oh, Drive, excuse me, Drive. Should have been Emerson Drive. Correct.
Thank you, sir. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
All right.
Emerson Drive or Emerson Road? It's gonna be Emerson
Drive.
There was a
Seeing no further discussion on this matter, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Any nays? Ayes have it, motion carries. Item 2, consider the introduction of an ordinance to dedicate and accept the maintenance operation of streets, drainage servitude, rights-of-way for Rebecca Industrial Complex subdivision to energize the street lights to incorporate the extension of Rebecca's Pond Road into an enhanced 911 emergency response system and calling public hearing on said matter on November 11, 2009 at 6:30 p.m. Moved by Ms. Williams, second by Mr. George Seahan. Seeing no lights on this matter, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Any nays? Ayes have it, motion carried. Item 3, resolution. Obligated the necessary funding under the Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government HMGP Hurricane Rita project to complete the evaluation of 311 South Central Boulevard. Moved by Mr. George Seahan, second by Mr. Pete Lambert. Seeing no discussion on this matter, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Any nays? Ayes have it, motion carried. Item 4, resolution authorizing the parish president to enter into an agreement with Start Inc. for the management of the daily operation of the Beautiful Beginning Center. Moved by Ms. Terry Cavalier, second by Ms. Yolanda Williams and Mr. George Seahan. Mr. Kevin Wazan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can I just ask, and I apologize my ignorance, but I couldn't figure it out during the week. What's the deliverable on, I don't know what the Beautiful Beginning Center is. I'm not,
Oh, that's on the corner of Bond Street and Greenwich Street.
but what is it, what does it do?
Oh, it's a homeless shelter.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. I can support it. It's a women and children homeless center, is what I'm told.
There's
Thank
women,
you.
children, men.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Seeing no further discussion on this matter, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Any nays? Ayes have it, motion carried. Motion to adjourn by Mr. George Seahan, second by Mr. Johnny Pizzolata. Seeing no lights on this matter, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Any nays? Ayes have it, motion carried. Good evening. Next up.
That's us.
How much time you give them?
3, you wanna go smoke?
All kinds of things.
Notice to the public, if you wish to address this committee, please complete the public wishing to address the council form located on either end of the counter. Give it to the council clerk. My left, your right. Prior to the beginning of the meeting, individuals addressing the council should be respectful of others in their choice of words and actions. All cell phones, pages, or electronic devices used for communication should be silenced for the duration of this meeting. This meeting will begin in about 3 minutes, or when Johnny gets back. Johnny's back. We'll have an invocation by Ms. Cavalier, and we'll have a pledge of allegiance by Ms. Cavalier. I thought I said, I'm sorry. I thought I said Ms. Cavalier. A pledge of allegiance, invocation by Ms. Cavalier, and a pledge of allegiance by Mr. Johnny Pizzolato. If everyone would please stand.
Dear Lord, again, we thank you for this opportunity. We thank you for the blessings that we have had this week. And we ask that during the next few days and during the next few hours that you would be with us as we make the decisions that concern and affect so many. We ask all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Roll call, Ms. Thomas.
Ms. Cavalier. Here. Mr. Sehan. Mr. Abear. Mr. Lambert. Mr. Pizzolato. Mr. Tillman. Mr. Wazan.
Here.
Mr. Kevin. Ms. Williams. Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum.
Thank you, Ms. Thomas. Calling Terrebonne Parish Council Policy Procedure and Legal Committee of October 2609 to order at 6:50. Item 1, resolution authorizing the parish president to execute an intergovernmental agreement with the Terrebonne Parish School Board with respect to utilizing H.L. Bourgeois High School as an emergency staging area evacuee pickup site. Moved by Mr. Tillman, second by Ms. Cavalier. Seeing no lights on the matter, all in favor? Aye. Those opposed, motion passes. Discussion and possible action with respect to the current policy regarding emails to council members. Mr. Kevin Voisin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If I could, I think the IT director's in the audience probably for budget hearings later, but if I could, through the chair, address him.
Certainly. Mr. Neal.
Neil Prager, Information Technology Manager.
Yes, sir, Mr. President, if you want to go ahead and give us the lowdown. I know we met the other day.
Yeah, the request of Mr. Voisin, we went ahead and looked at the problems the council was having with the size of the email boxes. So we evaluated all the councilmen. We had one councilman who was maxed out. So what we've done, we decided to increase it from 50 megabytes to 500 megabytes. In addition to that, we've modified the system to provide our networking section a notification when a mailbox reaches 90%. Now, that's not going to be foolproof. If that happens just prior to a weekend, it's very possible you get enough large email, it may stop. But 500, 10% of 500 would be quite a bit. The other thing, regardless of how large we make it, it's critical that open up the mail, open up your mailbox. When you do that, it downloads it from the box that has the restrictions on it and brings it down to your computer. You can still save it on your computer. If that becomes a problem, you can get with the staff. We have several options we have that we can still save them if y'all like.
Thank you, Mr. President. The box will be 10 times bigger, and I'm going to bring this down to layman's terms since I'm a geek. I enjoy the way you're talking about megabytes and everything, but it's 10 times bigger box so people don't, constituents aren't getting messages bounced back saying, well, this box is full over and over, and we can actually collect those messages. I want to say that I went down when we met and toured the IT department. I've toured a lot of server rooms. I've toured a lot of facilities like this, and I got to say, these guys deserve a real pat on the back. I mean, we're right at the edge. We're not at the bleeding edge, but we're at the cutting edge of where we need to be for the parish. We're ahead on our capacity. It's very neatly run, very efficiently run. Both physically, the physical location is really well kept, but also digitally, things just make sense. They run well, and they've really thought ahead. And I got to say that I've toured a lot of places like this. Not nearly as many of them are as well run and as efficient as our department is. So I just want to give them a little public pat on the back that they did a good job and they do a good job, and thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Can I be all right if I respond?
Briefly, yes.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Voisin, for that, and because we got some good people working for us.
Thanks.
Mr. Orlando Williams.
I just have a quick question. I check mine every day, but I still get full notice or whatever. And I'm checking it outside of the parish. I'm not, doing it here. I'm doing it from my home, and it's still coming up. So is that going to be a problem that's going to be corrected, or?
Yes, ma'am, it should be. What we'll do, I'll go ahead and double check on that, but for right now, you will have the 10 times increase like Mr. Voisin said. But I'll check with my staff on that.
Okay. Well,
Since you're doing it
asked-
at a remote site.
Yeah, I asked because I think I emptied it Friday, and then today I still had a full notice. And I check mine every day, every other hour, so I know that it's being checked.
From Friday to today? Okay, we'll have to look into it.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Mr. Tillman, your light, sir?
Thank you. And I like to echo what Kevin said. You got a great staff. I know they help me out all the time, so I certainly appreciate what they do. Can you explain to us? Let's say, for example, you have your system, and you're checking your system from your home, and I think one have to realize that when you deleting from your home, you also have to go to your office and delete that out. You know, when you're deleting from your phone, you also have to go to the office and delete that out as well. Because if you don't do that, then you still got that stuff coming in.
That's correct.
It's still coming in, you know. So I'm just saying to my fellow council individuals that deleting at home, deleting off of your phone would not resolve the problem that you have with the computer. That's your base. Everything is bouncing off of that. So you need to go to the office and clean that thing out.
It has to be at the office one, that's correct.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Williams?
Yeah, again, is there any way that can be changed? Because I know a lot of people that don't normally take their computers home or whatever, or don't even use the computers and just check them from their home. Is there any way that you can do something to help us out with the remote?
I think it's like Mr. Tillman said, you can check it remotely, but still your mailbox is going to still contain the emails. That's so when you get back to your main office, your main computer, the emails are still there in case you need to route them elsewhere or you'd want to save them on your computer at the office. So checking it from a remote location is not going to go ahead and unload your mailbox. It has to be done from the computer here at the office. Now, can that be changed? Yes.
That's what I'm asking.
That can be changed.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Mr. Kevin Voisin?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just real quick, the way that I get around that is actually I just have I set up a personal email box somewhere else, and all of their mail just forwards to me and automatically gets archived. Because one thing is important for the public to hear because they get confused sometimes. I think when we're talking about all this deleting, these guys archive all the mail that comes in. And I think they keep it for 3 years as the policy. So when we're deleting from our individual boxes, but the record of the email that they keep on the archive is still kept. So the way that I get around that exact problem, because I do everything remotely, I just have everything forwarded to a different address, which is the kevin@kevinwazan.com. That automatically, it gets archived, it gets deleted off the server because it's forwarded to a different address, and it handles the whole thing for me. And then I can use it, attach that to like a Gmail account. It's unlimited, and you can keep email for 20 years if you want. So anyway, just a quick IT lesson. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, sir. No action necessary. Discussion and thank you, Mr. President. Discussion and possible introduction of an ordinance with respect to proposed amendments to the excessive noise ordinance. This has been asked to be held again. We're holding it over. No action necessary. Item 4, pursuant to RS 42.6.1, the Policy Procedure and Legal Committee may convene into executive session to discuss the following lawsuit: Bayou Cane Fire Protection District and Coteau Fire Protection District versus Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government, docket number 158716. Ms. Williams, your light.
Yes, sir. I put this on the agenda, and at this time, I would move that we go into executive session with the risk manager, the parish attorney, the parish council, and the parish president.
Motion by
I said risk manager, so I'm sorry, and Al. I'm sorry, Al.
David Allen.
And David Allen.
Al Lovron and also David Allen is to be included. There's a motion on the floor. It's been seconded. Seeing no other lights, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. We'll meet in the back.
Okay.
I would entertain a motion to go back into regular order. Mr. Abear, all in favor? Aye. Those opposed, motion passes. Item 4. Mr. Seahan, seeing no lights on. Opposed, motion passes. Discussion and possible action with respect to providing insurance coverage to the full-time employees outside agencies such as fire districts. Kevin Voisin,
I would move that we accept the proposed ordinance to not allow outside agencies to participate. Is that correct?
motion by Mr. Voisin,
Second.
second by Mr. Cavalier. Seeing no other lights on the matter, all in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed?
Nay.
I count 4.
Mr. Tillman.
1, 2, 3, 4. Motion passes by 5 to 4. Motion to adjourn, Mr. Pizzolatto, second by Mr. Hebert. Those opposed, motion passes. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Give me that.
Notice to the public, if you wish to address the committee, please complete the public wishing to address the council form located on either end of the counter and give it to either the chairman or the council clerk prior to the beginning of the meeting. Individuals addressing the council should be respectful of others in their choice of words and actions. Thank you. All cell phones, pagers, or electronic devices used for communication should be silenced for the duration of the meeting. The Terrebonne Parish Council Natural Resources and Coastal Restoration Committee will come to order right now. We'll have an invocation by Ms. Arlonda Williams and the Pledge of Allegiance by Mr. Pete Lambert. All rise, please.
We're just coming together to thank you. Thank you for giving us a peaceful hurricane season this year. Thank you for allowing us to be prepared so that in the event of a natural disaster, our parish would have been protected. We're asking that you continue to strengthen us and build us up in our weak areas and make us strong where we sometimes fall. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag.
Call this meeting to order. Roll call, please,
Ms.
Madam
Cavalier,
Secretary.
Mr. Seahan, Mr. Hebert, Mr. Lambert, Mr. Pizzolatto, Mr. Tillman, Mr. Wazan, Mr. Kevin,
Here.
Ms. Williams. Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum.
Thank you, ma'am. Item 1, presentation by Dr. James Southern on land subsidence in Terrebonne Parish. Possible council action. Mr. Southern.
Sorry, I feel uneasy having not being able to talk to everyone, but since the last time I appeared,
Could you get your name and address for the record, sir?
James Southern, I'm adjunct instructor of geology at Fletcher Tech Community College. 310 St. Charles Street, Houma. My residence is 4448 Grand Caillou Road. And
Thank you, sir.
the last time I came, I talked about the evidence we had that subsidence is slowing down. Since then, I sent the data that I had to the New Orleans Geological Society, which I'm a member, and they suggested that I send it to. There's a third annual Louisiana Subsidence and Land Loss Symposium in Baton Rouge on November 16th, 17th, and it's put on by the Baton Rouge Geological Society and the Louisiana Geological Survey. So I sent them an abstract, and good news, I got accepted. I'm going to deliver I don't like to use the word study because I hear no more studies. This investigation, and I got a real nice letter from them. So I just wanted to just go over the abstract, really what we did, and I wish my daughter was here because my daughter Melinda, she's Dr. Melinda, and she showed me all the shortcuts to use on the computer, and we prepared some bar graphs and line graphs, and it's a pretty good presentation. But I think one of the things that we've got to understand is that Terrebonne Parish sunk, but there's two kinds of subsidence. One of them is a naturally occurring subsidence, which has been going on since before the dinosaurs. And there's papers out on this, that the rate of subsidence is about a half inch per century. But it is going on. If you look at the geological map of Louisiana, you'll see that all the strata is dipping down towards the Gulf. And there's a law in geology that says that sedimentary strata is deposited horizontally or nearly so. So they're like this. Then also in the process of the natural subsidence, the sinking, there's faults. We got thousands and thousands of them, millions of them maybe. Some of them only move that much. There's a big one going through Baton Rouge, and they get tremors out of it every now and then. But these are not the major faults that you would find on the West Coast. They're of a different sort. That's plates colliding. Ours is, we're on the trailing edge of the North American plate, so it's more gentle. And finally, because of there also, as the sediment is deposited, it's compacted. So that's a natural sinking. But what happened, and it, you could, in 10 generations, you would know, before we sunk from the withdrawal of hydrocarbons and groundwater, connate water as it's called, the elevation of Terrebonne Parish was maybe an inch lower than it was during the Civil War, so it was negligible. No one, but now, with the data that I had 5 benchmarks that we used, one in Houma, Berg, Savoie, Bayou Blue, Grand Caillou, and Little Caillou. And we found about 3 feet of total land loss. And this is true for most of the parish. Now, the starting point for this investigation was the elevation benchmark data that I told you about in the U.S. Army Engineers Houma Quadrangle Bulletin, 1942. But most of the elevations were from the 1930s. So these elevations represent elevations that were rather stable. But then when we started plotting it with later, and then we compared it with production figures, and I don't want to go through all of them, but in 1940, the crude oil production in Terrebonne Parish was 5 million barrels. We'd been producing for a number of years, but it was 5 million. It steadily climbed, and in 1960, it was just under 39 million barrels. Then in 2008, this was 1 year. In 2008, it was 2 million barrels. So, I mean, yeah, it's a no-brainer, really. withdrawal of hydrocarbons and groundwater cause subsidence, then if you stop withdrawing, it should stop sinking. And this is exactly what we found. So it's a very simple concept, but I have a real good, the production figures I got are rather thorough. I got them every 10 years, but I've got some in between. I can get them every year, from the Louisiana Department of Natural Resources. They really came through on that. Elevation, Kenny Rembert helped me on that. And admittedly, I would like to have more elevation. And I think it would be, if you would take this method, it's very inexpensive. Once you get the production figures, it cost me $58 because I can't do elevators, and it was on the 9th floor. So I got these people, it was called Petroleum Production something or other, and they went and got from 1940 to 1980 every year. So, and the rest of it, well, I'm presenting this as a preliminary investigation, but it is a method that can be used. And needless to say, in the coming years, I think if you would pick these benchmarks and go out and take a shot once a year, and then it would really confirm this. But and I was talking, I'm sure that after this symposium, there's going to be many, many more papers on this. In fact, I didn't know about this until recently, but the United States Geological Survey did an investigation and found the same thing. They were more sophisticated. They used satellites and this sort of thing, but they did it for the whole Louisiana coast. So, and the preliminary investigation suggests that land subsidence in Terrebonne Parish is inversely related to oil and natural gas. Now, I didn't have any data for groundwater. Groundwater may be the biggest factor of all. And this is what, when I go to the symposium, I know there's some people up there that are going to know more about this than I do. The reason why I say that is because there are places, well, right where my dad's from in Texas, around the San Jacinto monument and in Baytown, some of the, they have an aquifer there, and they've been drawing on it pretty heavy, and they sunk 9 feet. Part of the San Jacinto battleground is in Galveston Bay right now. I drove over there about 10 years ago, and it only sunk 6 feet then, but now it sunk more because of the withdrawal of groundwater. Water is incompressible, so when you take it out of a void, something's got to give. Natural gas, oil, maybe so, but I think I would like to see more data on how much water was taken out. And I talked to some of the old drillers, and they said, well, we make a lot more water than we do oil. And they keep pumping it until so the withdrawal of that water may be what caused this. And I told my students about this, and some of them said, the oil companies this, oil companies that, but you can't really blame anyone for this. Terrebonne Parish is a veritable oil field, and the Germans knew that. We had oil, they ran out. We won World War II. And I remember, and they were trying hard to get in here. And C.J. Chris, my friend, he can tell you all about that. We don't want to start blaming the oil companies in this, but the positive side of this study, I think, is that, in fact, I think Clayton was the first one that I told about this, and I know he felt good about it, just as I did. If we're not sinking anymore, we can keep what we've got, and I get a few bucks, and I'm starting to buy dirt. My camp's elevated, and my house is elevated, but and I was apprehensive about that because my property is going to be underwater, the road's going to be underwater, but that's not going to be the case now, I don't think. And so we can keep what we've got, and I think that we can go about with coastal restoration Barry Island restoration, and trying to get it back like it was. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Southern.
Okay. All right.
I see one light, Mr. Clayton Wazan.
Yeah, I just want to take the opportunity to thank Mr. Southern once again for his work, and he says, I felt good when he brought me the information. Certainly felt good and feel better, especially with them acknowledging your letter and that you'll have the opportunity to speak before him. And I think with that, you'll be able to get more information for us. I believe maybe on the water tables and such that maybe you don't have yet. But when you look at it all from the year 40 through the year 60 and then all the way to 08 last year, the differences, I think one of the big problems that we have had as a coastal community is the fact that the feds look at us as, hey, these guys are sinking, they're falling off the face of the earth anyhow. They look at us sometimes maybe like in Atlantis, we're going to fall in the Gulf and we're gone. But this is good, positive news, what Mr. Southern brings to us, and I believe in what he says. I mean, this guy's he's a no BS guy, and I really believe in it, and I think it makes state government, federal government, and the entire world maybe look at us in a different light right now, that this is something that's salvageable. It's not something that's going to continue sinking. When he talks about the San Jacinto basin around Baytown and all, 10 years ago when he went, they had sunk approximately 6 feet. Here, 10 years later, just 10 years later, the loss is maybe as much as 9 feet now. So, I mean, you're losing a heck of a foot every 3 or 4 years, when actually, according to Mr. Southern, we should be losing maybe 2 inches a century is what the average should be. If you take the whole United States and weigh in on it, what your land loss is. And I just think this is good news. Mr. Southern, once again, whatever I can do to help you, if it's help you with some of the financing that you've spent some money, I certainly want to help you with that if I can. But personally, I want to do that, and so that you can keep up your I was going to use the word study, but investigation.
Yeah, right.
Thank you, sir.
By the way,
ahead.
I've got
I'm all
another.
right, sir.
I've got another bulletin on the Gibson Quadrangle, which I haven't even done anything with yet. It'd be interesting to see what what the that does. So this is a real good technique, and I'd like to see the parish set up with the production figures I have. All you need now is elevations, which you can get from the local surveyors. And possibly monitor this and maybe get a little bit more data. It doesn't take a geologist to do this. You just have to get the data and plot it, and it comes out. It's definitely interactive because when we did a line graph, and my daughter told me that when the lines cross, you're plotting elevation, production figures versus elevations, production versus elevation, and they cross. That's an interaction. So there is an interaction there. So that's where we are now. But if you can set up some, I'll be glad to help all I can. I'm doing this as a volunteer to a place that I dearly love, and so as long as I can kicking around, well, I would be honored to help you any way I can.
Thank you again, Mr.
All right.
Southern. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Wazan. Mr. Billy Abear, Mr. Southern.
Mr. Southern, hold on a minute. I got a question for you.
We got you right back.
I wanna ask you a question here and test you out a little bit. What do you feel is how we could best utilize the Mississippi River to restore our marshland and so forth? What do you feel? I know there's many different hypotheses out there on how to redirect the flow here.
There was an article in the Courier last week about diversions. One of the things that it's not in the textbook, what I teach my students is that we got 6 deltas that were in southeast Louisiana in the last 7,000 years. Each delta is about 1,000 years ago. And the oldest one, got mine.
You have a cell phone?
Might you?
There we go. We're good.
No, mine's on.
It stopped, so we're good.
Well,
Sorry
anyway, to make
about
I think I gave you all that showing the overlapping deltas.
Yes, sir.
And that's very interesting. And I'm doing after I get this, I'm doing another project. I want to find out where Bayou Teche went. Bayou Teche was one of the 3,000 years ago, and I believe that the Grand Isle, Grand Terre, the Cheniers at Fourchon, and the Timberlayer Islands were there. Each one of these delta systems had barrier islands, and like the oldest one, the Salé Sypamore, which that had Trinity Shoals, Tiger Shoals, Ship Island, and then it switched over and went down where Metairie Road is today, and there were islands there, but they're covered up. And then then the Teche was the third. Well, I've got some evidence now that and this will be part of the subsidence thing, because Grand Isle is possibly 3,000 years older than last island. Well, what happened? There's no drilling right on top of Grand Isle. There's some offshore a little bit, there's some at Leeville, but there's not intent. You got to be sitting on top of it like we are. I remember riding around Terrebonne Parish at night, and everywhere you'd look, there was a drilling rig. And I understand Texaco alone drilled 5,000 wells out there or something like that. And I'm also going to go and try to find some elevation figures. But getting back to what you said, I'll tell you what my students say. After I teach them about South Louisiana and how this land was formed, and I just gave them a quiz last week, and utilize natural processes when possible. Restore the barrier islands by using sand dredged from the Mississippi River. You got to get the sand from somewhere else. You see what they're doing in Grand Isle right now? It's going to be like I told you about Otans, Cabon every year. You go too close to the shore, and okay, anyway. So rebuild the barrier islands. I mean, you know, in Dubai, they built one in the shape of a palm tree. You know, why can't we do that? And rebuild the barrier islands. This levee that we're building, the Morganza to the Gulf, soon you're going to have wave action beating against it. What you going to do about that? You got to have 30 miles of marsh and barrier islands out in front of those levees. Natural processes, just like it was formed in the first place. Now, diversions are going to be a problem. You can't let the Mississippi run wild and free because there's people everywhere. And I was just talking to Mr. Swess and my friend Kerry St. Pé. We talked about last time utilizing the pipeline. And now they have one that's flexible and we can get slurry. And this is all long term, but this is, we need freshwater swamp, brackish water marsh, salt marsh, all those good little ponds with all the good oysters and all this stuff. And that's restoration. Hurricane protection, that's another ball game. But this is the answer that I get from my students. And by the way, I'm turning out 35 or 40 a semester, so watch out. They know what's going on. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Southern.
Thank you, Mr. Hebert. Mr. Joey Seahan.
Yeah, just to answer Mr. Southern's, the question he had about why can't we build an island like they built in Dubai, I'll give you two good reasons. We have radical groups like Save Your Coast, and we have a Corps of Engineers. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Seahan. I would be afraid to see the study about the palm-shaped island. But I will say that from the chair, it's encouraging to hear this. I think that it's easy to overlook the significance of we can hang on to what we have, and we need to fight for it. And when we're talking about things, and you know, I've been a vocal proponent maybe the other way, but when we're talking about things like the Island Road, we're talking about things like the island. Hey, maybe we can hang on to some of this stuff, and maybe we need to change our mindset that this is not an inevitable thing. We really can push forward. I think also it may justify a stronger argument for getting more of the OCS funds based on if we can show a direct correlation to this production and our sinking, we maybe can justify getting a little more of that money to build ourselves back. And I appreciate all the hard work you've done. Thank you, Mr. Southern. Item number 2, Discussion and possible action with respect to chemical spraying along parish levees. A, Mr. Caleb Daly with the USDA will make a brief presentation on chemical spraying. Mr. Daly, as he walks forward, special thanks go to his wife. I know he has 5 kids under the age of 10, and she is an integral part of this presentation. Mr. Daly, if you could state your name and address for the record.
Thank you, Mr. Wazan. My name is Caleb Daly. I live at 213 Raywood Drive in Summerfield. As Mr. Wazan said, I work for the USDA as a scientist. The job that I do is kind of the opposite of what you want to do with the levees. I try to kill stuff like Bermuda grass. I work for the Sugarcane Research Lab, and my job is to find better ways to kill Bermuda grass and cane so that we can grow cane better. But Mr. Wazan asked me, we were talking over what could be done on the levees better to control the weeds on the levees without hurting the Bermuda grass as much. And I put together a few little slides talking about what Bermuda grass is and some of the options that we have for herbicides and that we can use for controlling the weeds on the levee. If you go to the next slide, thank you, ma'am. Bermuda grass is a perennial grass, which means it lives indefinitely. It doesn't have to be re-established every year like a lot of grasses and plants that grow. One problem with Bermuda grass is it doesn't like it to be in the shade. If you have a Bermuda grass lawn, you know that because if you have a tree, it doesn't grow very good under the tree. It likes to grow in the hot conditions. 95 to 100 is the best. When it gets cold, it goes brown and dormant. We all seen that. Bermuda grass is a native plant of Africa. It has been brought into the United States and established since the early 1800s. It's been around here for a long time, and it's pretty much been established throughout the southern part of the United States because it is such a versatile grass. Next slide, please, ma'am. Bermuda grass is used for lawns, for athletic turf, like I said, it is a versatile grass. It's also used for pasture and hay for cattle that are grazing in Terrebonne Parish. A lot of it is Bermuda grass pastures. And in this case, what we're talking about today is it's also a good grass to be growing on the levees. Because it is a very aggressive perennial grass, it produces underground rhizomes and a very thick root system that can hold soil in place. Next slide, ma'am. But in my case, Bermuda grass is a bad weed, and it grows in sugarcane fields, and we try to get rid of it. So we're trying to. So from my perspective is I know what kind of herbicides can be used on it to kill it, and what you can do to get rid of it. But I think this can be turned around to what can we do not to kill it. Next slide, ma'am. Currently talking with Mr. Luke and other people with the parish. Currently we're using the herbicides we're using on the parish levees is our Roundup, which is the active ingredient is glyphosate and 2,4-D. Some other ways that you can control weeds include mowing or burning. A lot of grasslands. An old native, the oldest method around is burning to get rid of unwanted vegetation. Next slide now. I'm going to talk a little bit about the herbicide Roundup. As I said, the active ingredient is glyphosate. It's what they call a non-selective herbicide. It controls pretty much any plant that you spray it on. It inhibits an enzyme that exists only in plants, and it exists in all plants. And it doesn't exist in animals or any other type of organisms, just plants. Higher rates are needed to control perennial plants such as Bermuda grass or other weedy grasses. It does not have any residual control. Once you spray it, it controls the plants that are there at the time that you spray it, and anything that comes up afterwards is not controlled by it. It also has very low toxicity to non-target organisms. It's pretty much just a grass controller. When we use a herbicide like Roundup on Bermuda grass, the rate that we use to control Bermuda grass in sugarcane fields is as much as 64 to 96 ounces per acre. And you use this in a field that you're trying to get rid of all the weeds and everything in a fallow field after you destroy the cane out of the field and want to replant. Currently on the levees, they're using 12 ounces per acre, up to 9 times per year. 9 times per year, I think, is mostly spot spraying, though. It doesn't mean that all the levee is sprayed 9 times per year. 9 times per year, it would be too much if they're spraying the same area, I think. But under most conditions, the Roundup will cause the Bermuda grass to yellow up, to turn brown, but it will recover after 3 or 4 weeks in most cases, as long as the grass is healthy at the time. 12 ounces of Roundup itself will not control the perennial grassy weeds that is growing on the levee also, though. You have to consider that as another factor. It's a low rate, it won't control Bermuda grass, but it's not also going to control some of the other grasses that you're trying to get rid of on the levees. The herbicide 2,4-D that they're also using is a selective herbicide, which means it controls just certain types of weeds. It doesn't kill grasses. Bermuda grasses, it's safe to use on Bermuda grass. 2,4-D's been around since the 1950s. It's an old herbicide, and it's very commonly used. You can buy it at Home Depot to use on your own lawn. It's been around forever, for as long as they've been making herbicides the way that they make herbicides currently. It's used just primarily as a post-emergence, which means just like Roundup, it controls pretty much what's up, but what's not up, it doesn't do a very good job of controlling. Right now they're applying 32 ounces per acre on the levees, which is a good rate to control broadleaf type weeds and brush and other things like that that are growing, small trees, and that it'll control those also. Next slide, man. So what are our options? There are other herbicides that are available for controlling weeds on the levees. I sent a couple publications from the University of Georgia on grass control on the roadsides, some herbicides that may be less injurious to the Bermuda grass or help control the other perennial grassy weeds. One thing to consider, though, and as far as a weed scientist's perspective, if you use the same herbicide every year over and over and over again, what you're going to do is you're going to shift the weeds to a species that are tolerant to that. You're going to find weeds that resist the herbicide application. And Roundup resistant weeds is a big issue in the weed science community because of the use of Roundup on Roundup ready crops and that repeated use over and over and over again. So what you may consider is expanding your herbicide program on the levees to be more than just the same herbicide every year, over and over and over again. There's also, if you're looking to use regulators so you don't have to mow the levees, that's one of the issues that they've talked about, is they don't want to have to mow the levees so much. And Roundup, when you apply it on the levees, it does reduce the growth so you don't have to mow as much. There are other growth regulators that are used in the turf industry that also are used to reduce mowing requirements that don't hurt Bermuda grass as much as Roundup does. One of the downsides is that they're usually more expensive than most herbicides. Next slide, man. I'm almost done here. Mowing is a good option for managing grass, as it removes the excess thatch and it helps to control some tall weeds. It also, that shade the Bermuda grass, reduce its growth. Typically, it's more expensive than going out with a herbicide application equipment. It requires more equipment, more man hours, and it's impractical on high slope areas. And if it rains a lot, it's hard to get your tractors in there to mow. Next slide, man. Burning, as I talked about, is one of the oldest management tools for grasses. It controls the weeds that are there, the small weeds. It helps to recycle some of the nutrients that are held in that thatch. And it helps to warm the soil in the spring time, but negative effect of that is if you burn all the grass off the levee and it's bare and you get a lot of rain, you can cause some erosion on that. So if you burnt the grasses on the levee, the time would need to be critical so that the soil does not stay bare for a long period of time. All right, I think that's all I have on that for now, and I'd be glad to answer any questions that anybody have about that.
Mr. Joey Seahan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, sir. The company that's spraying our levees in the parish claims to be using a Bermuda release program.
Yes.
Do you know what that is?
What they call the Bermuda grass release program is they're using a low rate of Roundup. It controls some of your other weeds, your small weeds. It'll suppress the Bermuda grass for a while, but Bermuda grass tolerates Roundup better than some of those small weeds. So that's what they're doing. Is why they call it a release is because it controls some of the other weeds that are competing with the Bermuda grass and allows the Bermuda grass to outcompete them.
Okay, so they're not doing any type of fertilization of the Bermuda or actually putting any...
No, what they're doing is it doesn't fertilize the Bermuda grass at all. It helps to suppress the other plants and weeds that are growing in the Bermuda grass.
All right. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Seahan. Mr. Billy Hebert.
How harmful is this to our water supply, animals, and that kind of thing when they use this type of program?
This Bermuda grass release program?
Right.
Okay. As far as the herbicide, Roundup is a pretty low toxicity. It's commonly used everywhere. It's fairly safe to the waterways and everything. It's even used as an aquatic herbicide to be applied in the waterways.
Even though we do spray miles and miles of levee, it wouldn't affect the fish,
Yeah.
anything?
It shouldn't affect them at the rates that you're using, especially at the low rates that you're using. It's not going to be enough to. It's a very low rate, and it's a very safe herbicide. It's one of the safer herbicides as far as that goes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. From the chair, I appreciate you coming out. And I had a question, though. If you were going to have just an ideal model, don't worry about cost, don't worry about the best way to maintain the grass, and you had, what I'm gathering from what you say is really there is no one solution. I mean, it shouldn't just be mowing or just spraying or just anything. It should maybe be a mix. But if you were going to put together an ideal thing where cost is no issue, and I know everybody's going to roll their eyes because cost is always an issue, but how would you put that forward? What would your ideal solution be?
Well, thank you, Kevin, Mr. Kevin, but I haven't thought it out completely and everything. But as you say, it shouldn't be just one option, and repeating it over and over again. Mowing helps grasses grow better because it gets rid of all the excess undergrowth that they have growing in there. I mean, Bermuda grass is grown in pastures a lot that get grazed down, and it helps to restore the grass, to have it removed from time to time. So mowing a couple times a year would be a good thing for the levees. You wouldn't have to be mowed every month or anything like that, but run through a couple times a year. Using more than just a Roundup herbicide program every year. You could using some herbicides that have more of a residual control that will keep some of those weeds, because like I said, the 12 ounces doesn't kill the weeds. It suppresses them for a while. It suppresses Bermuda grass. It suppresses the Johnson grass, the Vasey grass, the other grasses that come up that are growing in the Bermuda grass. There are other herbicides out there that will do a better job of controlling those grasses so that you don't have to fight them every year. You don't have to go out there 9 times a year and spray those grasses over and over again. You might have to spray once or twice. So you could reduce the amount of spraying by using herbicides that have a little more residual and are more effective at controlling the weeds that are growing on the levee. So in a long way to answer your question. You have to, I'd use a combination of herbicides and mowing. Burning might be an option. I don't know. It'd have to be something you have to consider. But the burning would have to be in maybe late March, early April, when the Bermuda grass is starting to green up again, to remove that undergrowth and to get rid of that. And if you did that instead of mowing, maybe that'd be a lot cheaper, but you'd have to monitor the burning, of course, because you wouldn't want the burning to spread into areas that you don't want burnt.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Daly. I hope that administration I hope that they'll look at maybe some other herbicides, because we may actually accidentally be encouraging some of the weeds that are stubborn, and then we go and put out more application than we really need to. So hopefully this has been good. I think it can point us in the right direction. Thank you very much for your information, Mr.
Thank you,
Daly.
Kevin. If they ever want to talk to me or email me with questions, I'd be more than happy to respond to them.
Wonderful. And we didn't want to show it up here, but also he sent a couple documents that have a whole list of herbicides that are options. We'll get those emailed to you, but I think they also have copies out to you. So thank you. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Daly.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, Mr. Johnny Pizzolatto. Second, Mr. Joey Seahan, Mr. Billy Abear. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Ms. Swazo. Come to the front a minute.
Mickey, late night tonight.
Notice to the public, if you wish to address the committee, please complete the public wishing to address the council forum located on either end of the counter and give it to either the chairman or the council clerk prior to the beginning of the meeting. Individuals addressing the council should be respectful of others in their choice of words and actions. All cell phones, pages, electronic devices used for communication should be silenced for the duration of the meeting, and we can begin in 2 minutes. Meeting to order. We'll have a invocation by Ms. Cavalier, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance by Mr. Joey Seahan. Will everyone please rise?
Dear Lord, help us get through this last meeting without any evil words or evil thoughts. Help us stay awake and help us to make decisions that are the right ones. Amen.
To the flag of the United States of America and to visible with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please, Ms. Thomas.
Mr. Seahan? Mr. Hebert?
Here.
Mr. Lambert? Here. Mr. Pizzolato? Mr. Tillman? Here. Mr. Wazan? Here. Mr. Kevin? Here. Ms. Williams? Here. Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Thomas. First item on the agenda is resolution concurring with the recommendation of administration approving the state contract purchase of additional audio-visual equipment for OSEP. Moved by Mr. Kevin Vazan, second by Mr. Alvin Tillman. Seeing no lights, all in favor say aye. Aye. Against? Motion passes. Item 2, resolution concurring with the recommendation of administration to award items with a value over $5,000 for the surplus sale of vehicles and equipment to the highest bidder and rejecting bids that fail to comply with the requirements and instructions for bidders.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Pizzolato, seconded by Mr. Kevin Vazan. Mr. Joey Seahan. Seeing one light, Mr. Vazan.
Yes, who's handling it? Ms. Alfred?
Yes, sir.
Through the chair, if I may.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
Is the awards of these items, Ms. Alfred, are, it looks like six different groups were probably lower bidders, I would assume, and were denied because of,
They were below the estimated cost or value that we had placed on it.
okay. They were less than the $5,000?
No, they were less than the amount that was recommended, the minimum bid.
Okay,
We had some that had no bids. And we had some that did not comply with the surety.
so the one selected was the only one above the
There were two selected.
two selected? Two different items
Yes, sir. Two different items.
by the same person
Yes, sir.
or group?
Mhm.
And the others that were denied, you say were less than the parish's assessed value? Really, Dugas. No surety. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Some of them, the ones that were denied, didn't have the surety, and then they have some that did not meet the minimum required.
At what amount is the surety required for all bids? Or bids over 5,000?
I'll have to let you know. I'll have to look it up.
Yeah. And that's the purpose for my question. Mr. Pizzolato just pointed out that something I had underlined also is that on the last page of the bids, there's one particular bidder who bid $65 on an item, and there was no surety, is the reason. So apparently, a surety must be required for any bid, is that right?
That's how we bid it, yes, sir.
Okay, okay. Just wondering, because I had thought maybe that it had to be 5,000 or more to require a surety. But
Well,
you're telling me no.
No, sir. What happened is we were having people come in and they were placing the bids on it, and then they weren't coming back.
Wouldn't come back and pick up the.
So we said, "Are you serious? Put up a surety."
Mm-hmm. It's good. I agree. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Okay, have a resolution on the floor. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Against? Motion passes. Item 3, resolution concurring with the recommendation of administration to award the bid for the rehabilitation of sewer manholes with cementitious products to Mid-Gulf Construction Incorporated in the amount of $49,999 for the Pollution Control Department. Moved by Mr. Kevin Vazan, seconded by Ms. Orlando Williams. Seeing no lights, all in favor say aye. Against? Motion passes. Item 4, resolution concurring with the recommendation of administration to award the bid for the purchase of 14 duplex lift station control panels to Premier Control Systems as per the attached documents and under the provisions set forth in the Louisiana Revised Statutes Title 38:2251. Motion by Mr. Joey Sehan. Second by Mr. Kevin Vazan. Seeing no lights, all in favor say aye. Against? Motion passes. Item 5, consider the introduction of an ordinance to approve to a lease agreement in the area located within sections 38, 39, 101, and 105, Township 17 South, Range 17 East, for oil, gas, and other liquid or gaseous minerals with Petroleum Land Resources Incorporated, Homer, in accordance with the Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government and the Louisiana State Mineral Board, and to authorize the parish president to execute the necessary legal documents with respect thereto, and to submit the lease to the State Mineral Board for approval, and to call a public hearing on said matter on November 11th, 2009 at 6:30 p.m. Moved by Ms. Orlando Williams, second by Mr. Kevin Vazan. Seeing no lights, all in favor say aye. Against? Motion passes. Item 6, consider the introduction of an ordinance to amend the 2009 adopted budget and the 5-year capital outlay for the following items: law enforcement, number KSHV 2010-10-00-00 for $12,210. Law enforcement, number PT 2010-24-00-00 for $16,385. The Justice Assistant Grant for $41,905. Jabert Hospital Levy, $370,000, and calling a public hearing on said matter on Wednesday, November 11, 2009 at 6:30 p.m. Have a motion by Mr. Clayton Vazan, seconded by Mr. Joey Sehan. Seeing no lights, all in favor say aye. Against? Motion passes. Item 7, consider the introduction of an ordinance to amend the 2009 adopted operating budget authorizing DRC Emergency Services, LLC, New Park Incorporated Environmental Safety and Health Consulting Services, Inc., and Roads and Bridges for purposes of vessel removal, disposal, monitoring, and transfer site preparation, and calling a public hearing on said matter on November 11th, 2009 at 6:30 p.m. Motion by Ms. Orlando Williams, second by Mr. Pete Lambert and Joey Sehan. Seeing no lights, all in favor say aye. Against? Motion passes. Item 8, consider the introduction of an ordinance to amend the 2009 adopted budget for the funding from Louisiana Association of Community Action Partnerships, Inc., for the Weatherization Assistance Program, and calling a public hearing on said matter on Wednesday, November the 11th, 2009 at 6:30 p.m. Motion by Mr. Alvin Tillman, second by Mr. Clayton Vazan. Seeing no lights, all in favor say aye. Against? Motion passes. This is mine, Kevin. You want to come up here and handle that?
Item 9, discussion and possible action with respect to the possibility of establishing a tax amnesty program for Terrebonne Parish. Mr. Billy Hebert.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Recently, I read, in fact, last Monday, I read where the Louisiana, of course, has passed the tax amnesty program September the 1st, 2009. And so far to date, they have collected roughly $40 to $50 million from taxpayers in Louisiana. And upon doing some checking, I decided that I think I wanted to bring to the council a tax amnesty program for Terrebonne Parish. And what this does, it gives the businesses a 2-month window of opportunity that if they have any outstanding balances such as sales taxes, occupational licenses, hotel, motel taxes, that are delinquent where interest and penalties have been added to them, that they can come in and settle these balances with the sales tax department. I've checked with Ms. Chris Lagarde, and she's here, and I'd like to call her up if I can, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Lagarde, in my conversation with you, were you able to add up how much is outstanding in taxes, fees, and interest to Terrebonne Parish?
The period of time that we're talking about is July 2001 through December 2008, about 7.5 years. And in checking our records, we have about $347,000 of tax penalty and interest that's outstanding at this time. If you take the penalties off, I think we'd be looking at about $250,000 to $260,000.
Great.
And this is almost 100% businesses that are closed. These are monies we attempted to collect from our taxpayers. They shut down, left the country, or wherever they went. We have tax liens against them and judgments against them. And like I said, the majority of this money is closed businesses.
And I think what this will do is allow these people at least to come straight with Terrebonne Parish. Such a program you may never see again in Terrebonne Parish. Even in the state of Louisiana, it's not something you would have every 5 years or every 10 years. But I think the timing is right for Terrebonne Parish in the state of Louisiana to at least give the taxpayer an opportunity to come in and pay his taxes without the fear of having to have the penalties or some of the interest taxed to them where they have to pay. We use businesses to collect local, state, and federal taxes. When you're in business, you have to collect sales taxes and remit it. You have to collect, you have to pay for ad valorem taxes on your assets and your inventory. From the state, you have to pay state sales taxes. You have state payroll taxes that you charge on businesses. With the federal government, you have payroll taxes that you have to remit. So we do call a lot on our businesses to submit taxes to government. And in this case, where you have people that are shut down, that may have judgments against them, this will give them an opportunity to come straight with the government and allow themselves to probably better credit themselves in case they might want to go back into business one day. It's just an opportunity for them. I've asked Ms. Courtney Alcock to look into it to see if we need any particular legislation, because you remember we're going to have to probably do something at our level to present to the advisory board, because we have the school board, we have the sheriff's department, and we have the library board that would have to go along with this. Ms. Courtney, what do you see anything that we have to do on this?
Because the waiver of penalties is provided for in the code, we should probably set out the parameters for the program in the code as well. So it would be kind of a one-time deal ordinance, but I think it would have to be by ordinance.
You have to do it by ordinance. I think we have our next meeting sometime in November for the advisory board.
We're going to try to set a meeting the week of November 16th. I'm going to try to get a meeting set tomorrow. I'm going to call around and see when everybody would be available.
When everybody would be available.
Correct.
What I'd like to do is to keep this in committee, if it's okay with the council, and draw up some legislation for our next committee meetings that we could approve and present to the advisory board to where we could do this maybe in December and January and see if we
Ms.
can.
Dabear, I would suggest maybe January and February.
Okay.
Because it would give us a little time to advertise, maybe through the radio and the newspaper as well. I think it'd be cutting it a little close if we try to pursue it for December.
Okay, so that would be January.
There's a motion on the floor.
Yes,
and a
I made
second.
the motion,
Motion by Mr. Billy Hebert, second by Councilman Clayton Wazan. One more, no, seeing no further lights, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Ms. Lagarde. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you. Item number 10 is a resolution authorizing the transfer of equipment and personnel from the Tunnel Boulevard Fire Station to the East Park Fire Department, and the resolution, I would like to read. A resolution directing administration to transfer all personnel and equipment from the current Tunnel Boulevard Fire Station to the East Park Fire Station facility. Whereas it is the duty and responsibility of the Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government to adequately provide for the health, safety, and welfare of the residents of this parish, and whereas one of the basic safety measures provided by local government is fire protection to the residents and property owners located within a specific area, and whereas the impending closure of the Prospect Street Bridge and the rerouting of literally thousands of motorists on a daily basis poses a serious danger to the many residents of the East Park community, due in part to the lack of fast response, fire protection, and emergency medical response to the area. And whereas the closure of the Tunnel Boulevard Fire Station and the transfer of equipment and personnel to the currently vacant East Park Fire Station facility will provide adequate fire protection the residents and property owners of the East Park community, while not substantially lessening the fire protection services to the area along Tunnel Boulevard. And whereas the council feels that the transfer of personnel and equipment to the East Park Fire Station will be in the best interest of the most citizens of the East Homer area covered by the Homer Fire Department, so that they may receive necessary fire and emergency health services. Therefore, be it resolved by the Terrebonne Parish Council, Budget and Finance Committee, on behalf of the Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government, that the parish administration be directed to transfer the personnel and equipment from the current Tunnel Boulevard Fire Station to the East Park Fire Station facility. And be it further resolved that the transfer be completed by December 31st, 2009.
So moved.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Pizzolata. Second by Mr. Kevin Vazan. I see one light, Mr. Tillman.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was called by the Corey as it relates to this, and of course, it's been nice to been able to enter into discussion as it relates to it, but of course, it didn't. I would assume the author of it didn't see fit that I needed to know that. But anyway, Mr. Chairman, I'd like the Chief to come up and give his thoughts on this matter.
Yes, sir.
You know, we've discussed this at many of our meetings, and I want to hear what he has to say, and then I have some things I need to bring forward to this council. Thank you. Chief?
Mr. Pizzolata had came meeting with me sometime.
Yes, sir. Your name?
Oh,
and
okay. I'm
rank?
sorry. Todd Dufresne, Fire Chief, Homer Fire Department. We spoke about this, I believe it was Wednesday of last week. He let me know that this was coming up. I did tell him that I was going to call Mr. Blaine Rabbit with Pale to see what he had to say about the issue. And he did say that it would probably be a negative effect on our rating. He also mentioned that if this takes place for the duration of the bridge being fixed over 2 years, we're supposed to be getting rated in 2011. So we'd be rated by having that station manned. And he said it's a possibility that in that rating, he's going to come and say that the East Homer station needs to be manned also. And I know that's a big expense to be able to man both of them. I feel that there's some precautions we could take. I already went and spoke with the bridge tenders, and they gave me Mr. Greg Patterson. He's the superintendent of bridges. And I asked him if there'd be some kind of way we could have a policy that the Degville and the Howard Street Bridge can't be open at the same time. And he says that would be no problem because they already have a policy for the Homer Nab and Dularge can't be open at the same time. As long as one of these bridges is open, we could get our equipment across. The bridges are full-lane bridges, so they're real wide. And if we respond at lights and sirens, we could get around if we have to go in the left lane to be able to get to the other side. That's all I got on the issue.
Chief, during peak hours such as morning traffic. Of course, folks are going back and trying to get to work, and around in the evening time, around the 5 o'clock traffic. This is a significant amount of traffic those 2 times of the day. How would you guys manage to get around that type of traffic? Because the issue here is that once the Prospect Street Bridge is down, there's going to be an abundant amount of traffic. So I personally believe that there's abundant amount of traffic now. I think at 4 or 5 o'clock in the evening, you can take any direction in this parish if you want. There's a lot of traffic. It's no doubt about it. But you still have to understand that you guys have a job to do, just in case there happen to be a fire at those given times. How would your department deal with that?
Again, like I said, we we have to run lights and sirens. We blow the air horn, and a lot of times we do got to take the left lane, and the cars do yield to us to the right to give us the passage that we need. And exactly like you said, you go on Grand Collier Road or even on Tunnel, it gets bad at those times. So we dealing with this already.
Thank you, Chief. Chief, you're aware of the comprehensive analysis of the City of Homer Fire Department that was done back in 2002?
Yes, I'm aware of it.
All right, and during that time, their report said that previous studies and recent recommendation by Property Insurance Association, which is PAIR, identified that East Park Fire Station number 4 can be closed without adverse impact on the present rating. The closure of the station and the reassignment of the crew to another station would reduce optional expenses and improve fire protection services for that community. And when they were talking about redirecting that crew, that report referenced to redirecting that crew where?
To the other stations, the other 4 stations. Right now, at that East Homer station, we had 3 personnel, but I got 5 people in the academy. When they come out, we're gonna be at 4 at that station. At the East Park station, when it was open, it was a 2 personnel station. All it had was a captain and a driver. The station was designed that way. It's very small, and I would have to move 4 personnel in that station, so it would be kind of small also.
And how's things working out now as it relates to the removal of those individuals due to the closure of the East Park station? Have you guys been able to take care of the area of East Park, which is in question?
Yeah, what the study said and Pale says is every station has a 1.5 mile coverage area. And when you put the stations on the map, when you have the North Homer station and you got the East Homer station and the East Park station, the North Homer and the East Homer, that 1.5 mile overlaps the East Park area. So that's why he said that station was not necessary, because it's being overlapped by 2 other stations.
And who said that?
Pale, and your study said that.
Okay. And it also said that this study, recent reports and recommendation of PAL have identified that station number 4, East Park Station, have overlapping coverage with other fire stations. Thus, this station can be closed without adverse impact on the rating. It also say for a practical approach, the city could save optional expense by station closure. The transferring of the staff would benefit the greater cost rather than a smaller area. And other city agencies could use the building and property, thereby reducing the operational cost. Now, this is recommendation of passed through a study that we paid for, and I think the study was around $40,000-$50,000 that we paid to go ahead on and get that done. And it said that the consolidated government should bring closure to the station status. Members of the consolidated government should hold public hearing, and those things was done. Public hearing was held as it relates to the station. I myself, I got to tell you, whereas many of the other council members, we definitely didn't want the station closed. Matter of fact, I was so adamant about not closing the station. I was one of the first ones to say, "Hey, look, I'm willing to put some money about a district to keep it open." But I mean, by no means can I sit here tonight and just reversed its operation and said that, hey, let's close that station and go ahead on and open another station. That's not the answer to the situation we have here. I believe that we have a fire department that's very, very capable of handling whatever situation may derive as it relates to the closure of that station, and I think you guys have been doing a fantastic job as it relates to that. But certainly, I didn't think I'll be here tonight, even discussing this matter in terms of closing the station. I thought, if anything, we'll be discussing the matter to try to see what we can do, maybe perhaps to find some other way to try and maybe perhaps open that station. And I am one of those council members that tried very, very hard to do just that, and to give my input, not only input, but as well as putting dollars toward it. Also, the study said if the East Park Fire Station closed, the members should be transferred to the ladder or service rescue company at Station Street. This report is emphatically saying that they're recommending, and everywhere in this report is recommended that that particular station be closed. Never once is recommended that the other station be closed. And I just don't know why tonight we're here trying to put some measure in place to try and close and go against the recommendation of the report that we have from the consultant, in which we paid that $50,000 to. I just don't think that make much sense. Also, it said that station number 4, close station number 4 and relocate crew to station 3. I'm saying that because this is what the report is being very repetitive in what it's saying here. So they were quite adamant about their finding as it relates to that particular station. And finally, I'm going to close it out by saying that one other statement has said that additional fire suppression division staffing will provide for 2 floating driver, operators, and captain per shift to cover for vacation and sick time. So they had that included in there as well. So this is the report in 2002 that we got. And of course, it was good that we were able to get a report together and make sure that whatever happened to be it with that station or the other station, that you would have some information analysis to go ahead on and conclude why it was done. And the report came in, and the recommendation of PAIR that particular station be closed. Never once the other station be closed. So I'm asking my fellow council members to certainly not entertain the notion of closing that station, but if anything else, to put the matter back in the committee and maybe see if we can give it administration, find some other kind of way that you can do it, but certainly not doing it by bringing forth some benefits to one community and take the benefits away from the other community. That's not the way to do it. Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Continue with lights, Mr. Pizzolata.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I can understand Mr. Tillman's concern. I mean, he has concerns about his district just like I have concerns about mine. Some of the things that I want to bring to the attention of the council. The East Park Station, by car to the Tunnel Boulevard Station, is 1.1 mile. That's all it is. And obviously, we're all smart enough to know that the road goes both ways. If an engine leaves the tunnel station to respond to the East Park side, the same is true that the East Park station can respond to the tunnel side. The big difference is that if those bridges are down and out and they're not working, East Park Station has nothing but the Village East Volunteer Fire Department. And we all know how a volunteer fire department works. It takes time to get the members to the volunteer station and to get them on the road with the truck. Whereas, if I had a station opened on East Park, they could respond if those bridges are down. Now, if the bridges are down and Mr. Tillman has problems in his area, he can be serviced by North Houma, and it can also be serviced by the air base. North Houma leaves, comes up Orleans Boulevard, crosses by Terrebonne, crosses the twin spans. They have no bridges that's going to stop them. The air base has no bridges that's going to stop them. They're going to respond. If the bridges are out on by Terrebonne, East Houma is left alone. They have no emergency response. They have no fire response. I'm asking you to think about what goes on when those bridges are out. if any of you have been listening to the New Orleans station, WWL, about the traffic report, and if any of you are familiar with Florida Avenue in New Orleans, there's a lift bridge on Florida Avenue. The bridge lifted, they couldn't close it for 3 days. If these mechanical apparatuses that we have on by Terrebonne are in the up mode, one and one down, and it can't close, we only have one access across that bayou. And if the traffic is so jammed up because they're trying to get through that one access, East Park has no fire protection, no emergency protection. And I spoke to the chief about this. East Park has access from the backside. Even though East Park Avenue may be jammed up with traffic, we can get to the back end of that district with the streets Tupelo and the rest of the streets back there. In the district, we have one shipyard, we have about 10 businesses, we have a school, we also have about 250 homes. And that's the oldest section of Terrebonne Parish. Those houses in that section are so close together that if one catches on fire and we don't get in a quick response, 3, 4, 5, 6 houses go up. I'm also, unless I'm incorrect and the chief can correct me, the last time we had fire deaths in this parish was right there in that district because the station wasn't open. And I'm not blaming anybody, it just happened. And it can happen again. Mr. Tillman is perfectly right in trying to defend his district, but his district is covered without an engine being on Tunnel Boulevard because Orleans can cover it and the air base can cover it. The East Park side has no coverage. Now, I want to tell you another thing. The chief just stated that Powell sounded like maybe the rates are going to go up. The same email that he has, he sent a copy to me. And this is what Mr. Blaine Rabbe said. Todd, moving the engine along with other issues that came out of our meeting, not responding manpower, might, not will, not maybe, but might have a negative impact on the fire rating. Also, if we came in when the engine company was relocated, we would have to evaluate the grading like that and might, again, might, recommend a station at the location where this one is closed. Now, if we can sit here as a council and deny a group of our citizens the proper protection because we're afraid that the Louisiana Rating Association of the Fire Rating Association of Louisiana might change the rating, I think that we have to rethink our reasoning. Now, 2002 they had a report, and we all know that 7 years later, Houma has grown. The traffic has gotten horrendous. Prospect Bridge is coming down. We know that's going to happen, and the traffic's going to get even worse. All I'm asking you to do is to consider the health, the welfare, and the property of the people that's located from the Intercoastal Canal east and from Bayou Terrebonne north in that particular area because of these bridges. None of our other areas in this parish, except our rural communities, have to worry about bridges. That area has to worry about bridges and their mechanical apparatuses. If they don't work, if they're up, and we can't get a fire truck over there, my conscience, I would be totally upset with my conscience would bother me for the rest of my life if we again lose lives in that district, and we have lost 5 lives over there, and we can't afford to do it again. It's not that I want to close tunnel. I'm just like Mr. Tillman. I want to open it. Administration keeps telling me it costs $1 million, and we know we don't have $1 million. I know we don't have $1 million. Each of us up here know we don't have $1 million, so we can't open the station. That's the first thing I did when I got on this council. And guess what I got? I got 9 votes with a resolution. But being young and dumb, a resolution carries no weight. It had to be a budget adjustment. This is not going to cost us anything except I talked to the chief. He said I might have to buy some beds, a new stove. I says, I got the money in my budget that I'll give you whatever you need to get that station open. He says it's too small. The chief says it's not too small, but it's small. Well, you know, we've all slept in small rooms when we were kids, and then we all got well. It didn't hurt any of us. I don't think it's going to hurt any fireman to be in a smaller building. The thing is, we got to protect those people on East Park. And I'm asking this council, with due respect to Mr. Tillman, I appreciate where he's going, and I understand where he's going, but I do believe we have to transfer these people to the East Park Station, and I'm asking the council members, please support the resolution. And thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Pizzolata. Continuing with lights, Mr. Tillman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Fellow council members, we have to understand that I think we all would love to have a fire station next door to us. I think we would love to have it just as close to us as we possibly can, but we know that that's not possible. We realize that. We know that from time to time, life brings on challenges. We must realize that also. But, I mean, you have a chief that is here telling you tonight that, listen, we are equipped, we are aware of the situation, and we are ready. They are ready. Now, don't get caught up in this thing about, you know, you had that situation where you had that fire and those 5 individuals. The chief in the department had nothing to do with that. Don't blame that because of the fact that they didn't get there soon enough. Don't say that. Don't blame that because the fire station wasn't open. That wasn't the case. We know that wasn't the case, and I know that wasn't the case. But let's not shadow this situation here. I will not take the constituencies that I represent and put them in harm's way because you have an individual saying that, hey, look, I have constituency due to the fact that this station is closed. Now they're in harm's way. But what we should do, we should go ahead on and take other community residents and put them in harm's way. I don't think personally that anybody's in harm's way. I think that the chief and the department is very capable of handling any situation that may occur. And I believe that strongly. But with the report coming back from PAL and with the statement coming back from the chief himself, put some credence into what he's saying. He's saying that, hey, look, yes, we're going to have some challenges on our hand as it relates to the bridge. And I got to tell you, look, I'll tell you this and be frank. I have put no credence in the fact that that bridge is going to come there today or tomorrow. I don't know. I've been sitting here. This is my 3rd term. One day to tell me that the bridge is going to be up in 2 years. Then I have to wait 7 more years. Then they come back and say it's going to be up next year. The money's there. Then the money's gone. I won't believe that bridge is going to be there until I see it happen. I'm telling you, because that money with the state has been appearing and disappearing, look like every year. But so we don't really know yet. But it seems to me it's the closest we've gotten to it yet. But I think we've been pretty close time before. So I don't know whether or not the bridge is even going to be built. I haven't been telling people that because I've been telling them that for years and years and just haven't happened. But tonight, for this council to even remotely consider closing down a station to open up another one, I think it's ridiculous. I really think it's ridiculous. You know, earlier we were talking about transportation, and you know, one of the things I mentioned that please, whatever we do, let's try to find a way to work this thing out with transportation. And then, of course, Chairperson Williams, along with Mr. Kevin Wazan, concurred that, hey, look, you know what? I think that Mr. Wazan can find a way to work this thing out. And then Mr. Wazan said, you know what thing? I think we can do that. And my question to him was, Mr. Wazan, will that affect the ridership that we have in other parts of this parish? No, I think we can find a way to do that. You understand? If nothing else, find a way to do it. But if by chance that doesn't happen, I believe that we're fully prepared and equipped to handle any situation that come before us, and I think we got the fire department just to do that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Tillman. Continue with lights, Ms. Williams.
I just have a question for the chief. You are not in favor of this, correct?
No.
And could you one more time state your reasons?
I think that we could take, precautions like with the bridges. And I believe that we don't know how much of a problem we're going to have. We just assuming that we're going to have all this traffic and it's going to be a mess. Let's see what happens. And I think we could get around, you know, the fire trucks and the emergency equipment, you know, with the lights and siren and air horns, we can maneuver through the traffic. And like I said, the bridges are 4-lane bridges, so we could go around the vehicles on the bridges to get across.
How long have you been a firefighter?
I started as a volunteer. I'm on 30 years. Since I was 16 years old, I joined. And
So
I've been a paid career for 18 years.
Okay. The reason I ask, and no offense to anyone up here, but I agree with Mr. Tillman. I just don't think that we should be doing this. And if someone with 30 years of experience in this type of position is telling us that he does not agree with it, I just don't think that we are going to be acting responsibly if we go against someone in public safety. And I agree that we need to protect everyone, but if it is not going to be in the best interest of all the constituents, according to your position as well as what Mr. Tillman has read to us, I just hope that when we make this decision, everyone thinks about, you have the chief, the fire department chief, saying he does not agree with this. So that may be a problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Mr. Kevin Vazan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chief, I have a question. Mr. Pizzolato alluded to being young and dumb on the council. That'd be me right now, I guess. But since the station was closed, I mean, I'm assuming there have been fires in the area, obviously. I mean, I know you may not know off the top of your head, but what are our response times in that area, and are they acceptable? And, right now, let's just throw out the bridge situation, and I do understand that that'll complicate things. I mean, do you feel like it's acceptable right now? I don't know how many fires there've been there, and if you could just talk me through maybe a couple scenarios and how you would relate that to other places you have coverage right now.
Well, we have an average response time, and that's about all I could give you. I couldn't give you at East Park area or whatever. Our average response time is like 3 minutes, 3:30, okay? 3.5 minutes response time average all over the city. I could tell you as calls, East Park area, you probably have 10 to 12 calls a year, and then you got, we running like 700 to 800 calls a year for the city. East Park has about 10 to 12 calls a year of that 700, 800.
Of the 10 to 12 calls that you get, I mean, have you had to and I'm looking for your overarching experience, not for specifics, but have you ever had the thought, boy, I just think we weren't there fast enough, or I wish we could have X, Y, Z, and that of those 10 or 12 calls?
No, because like he was saying about the debts, sometimes it's out of your control, we probably, from what I can remember, one of the biggest fires we had in the East Park area, from what I can remember, the station was open, and we still had 2 houses, a boat, and a car on fire, all at the same time. And the East Park station was open at that time, so it just, the way the ball bounces, the station was open, the truck was close by the time we got the call, we responded, you still had 2 houses, a boat, and a car on fire.
I'm gonna just say that I see both sides of this, but I think the decision kind of comes down to something Greg Bush told me. I have a neighborhood where 80% of the neighborhood is under pump and 20% of it is not, and it really, by no one's estimation, doesn't make any sense that 20% isn't under pump. And so as I got to be councilman, I'm pretty smart and dumb, and thought, well, we'll just pump it over from the 20% into the 80%. That seems to be a real easy solution. And Greg Bush sat me down and he said, I'm just going to say this: don't pump water from one system into another. Just don't do it. Don't let your mind think that direction, because it'll never work. And I really believe, I don't think that the proposal is ridiculous. I want to say right now publicly that I really think that Mr. Pizzolato has a point. I really, really do. I don't think it's ridiculous. I think it's a good solution from his point of view. I think that there is kind of an island effect. If the traffic happens like he assumes that it will, and I agree with him that the traffic is going to happen, it's going to be tough to get through, that we do need to solve that island, in my opinion. I don't like this solution though, because you take from one to give to another, and you have a known quantity now, and what you end up doing is you take for 10 or 12 calls, and now they're important, and I commend Mr. Pizzolatto for not just looking at numbers and really looking at people, but you're going to take 10 or 12 calls, make them 100%, and put a question mark on the 700 calls, and that's what makes me a little uncomfortable about this, and I just think I want to find a solution, but I want to find a different solution. You know, I'm even okay with the high dollar numbers to get that thing started again, but I don't see this as being it. I'm all for the solution, but we can't put a question mark on 600 to help 10 or 12. It just doesn't make sense to me. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Kevin. Mr. Pizzolatto.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Very quickly, Mr. Tillman spoke twice. I'm going to speak twice. Just remember what I said from the beginning. The road goes both ways. If you got an engine in East Park, it can respond to Tunnel Boulevard. It's 1.1 miles. Tunnel Boulevard has access from the base. It also has access from Orleans Boulevard. East Park does not. Thank you. And one more thing. Whichever way it goes, Mr. Tillman and I are going to still be the same. Whichever way the council votes, you know, I'm just trying to do what I think is best, and I know he's trying to do what he thinks. And I would hope that would be the end of the discussion, and we could vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Pizzolatto. Mr. Tillman.
Mr. Chairman, I'm gonna make this motion, but just briefly before I do that, I just want us to realize that regardless of the traffic is not high traffic every day, all through the day. You know, that it doesn't mean that whenever there's a situation, a call out is always going to be an abundance amount of traffic. I mean, you can go at let's say 5 o'clock, man, you go there at 6 o'clock, you can flow right on through. You know, but just look at this and let's be hopeful in terms of what we're doing. But I make a substitute motion that this matter be forward back to necessary committee.
Okay, I have a motion on the floor, seconded by Ms. Williams. Still have some lights. Substitute motion, yes, thank you. Substitute motion, I still have lights. Miss Terry Cavalier. It's getting late.
It's late.
Sorry,
I know.
Terry.
How much does this cost? Nobody's brought up money. Anybody want to answer?
To transition.
Mr. Dufresne, you have any idea?
It won't, you mean to move the personnel?
To move to that station hasn't been used.
Well, it's got electricity and it's cleaned up because the district chief, we kind of stationed the district chief out of there. So it's not like it's in bad shape. So it would be minimal cost.
Minimal cost?
Yeah.
I agree that Mr. Pizzolatto is supposed to fight for his people, but being on this council when that decision was made, and I know there's a lot of accusations that was because of feelings between the parish president and the people who were involved. I mean, I'm just putting it out there. That wasn't why I voted on it. I voted because an expert stood before us, and they had the data to back it up. My worry is that the bridges will be out and the people will be stranded over there, just like Mr. Pizzolatto's. But if there's an agreement that that both bridges can't be open at the same time, then to me you have access on both sides at all times. So I would like to go along with the committee idea, because I would like y'all to research it further and find out what guarantees you can get about the bridges. Because if there's a guarantee that bridge will always be open and they'll have access across that way, like Ms. Pizzolatto said, it's the same distance both ways. But if there's a chance that both the bridges could be out at the same time, then that is a dangerous situation. And I also want to know what Village East plays into this, because they're on that side over there. They respond to fires that are in the city limits. I mean, they don't wait, do they, for y'all to call them?
No, they.
And what's the distance between that and East Homer?
The Village East Station? I don't know, man.
Because, I mean, you know, we're acting like there's no fire station on that side. There is a fire station on that side. There's the Village East. So that's the things running around in my head at 9 o'clock at night after listening to all of this. So I'm going to vote for it to go into committee. But, Mr. Pizzolatto, if I can't get some answers, then I'm leaning your way. Because I'm like you. I don't want anybody unprotected. But those are the questions I have until I can vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Cavalier. Mr. Seahan?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chief, I just was making some notes and listening to everything going on, and I realized that there's a station on the air base, and I'm sure these stations would back up each other, but in the facilities that concern me with safety is you have Honduras School, the McDonald Children's Home, Acadian School, Elysian Field School, Oaklawn School, TARC, SEC, Ellender High School. You have 4 hotels and a hospital. Closing that tunnel station, would that have any adverse effect on these facilities being serviced by the airport station?
Well, some of them, it would take a little longer for that truck to get there because they're closer to the East Homer station, you know. When we respond, like if you have a structure call, we're responding three stations are responding. You know, you got to have a ladder and 2 engines. So you're going to have 3 stations responding everywhere in the city for a structure, depending where it's at, depending which stations are going. So you just got some getting there sooner than the other ones.
Okay, I was just trying to listen what everybody was saying and just making some notes here. I was just curious because I know Mr. Pizzolato said there was 10 businesses on that side of the canal and 250 homes. So I'm just trying to weigh it out and make sure that, like Mr. Tillman and Ms. Williams said, we're not taking away from somebody. It put it somewhere else and then to really cause harm to these other folks. So just a question. Thank you for your answer. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Seahan. Mr. Claudet?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A couple things. Tomorrow, I'm meeting with Secretary Ankner, and I will ask him specifically about the bridges. So, and try to get some commitment from them in writing or by email that they will never open up both of those bridges at the same time. That's the first thing. Second thing is, to my knowledge, that the 5 deaths in that area were on Petrie Street, and 2 things have happened since that time I want to bring to everybody's attention. One is that we've done some changes on Petrie Street, and I'm trying to recall either we made it one way or we prevented parking on one particular side, but in any event, we've prevented cars from blocking particularly fire engines that may have been going down there because it's particularly a small street. And we did one or both, I'm not sure exactly which one, but the thing that made the biggest difference of all that is that after that period of time, the fire department went out and got a grant for smoke alarms and installed smoke alarms in that whole area, which is by far the largest thing that will go ahead and help give an early alarm and prevent people from dying. And quite honestly, we will check with Secretary Ankner tomorrow, and we will follow the directives of the council as much as we can in this particular matter.
Thank you, sir. I have one more light, Mr. Kevin Vazan.
Thanks, and this is just me thinking outside of the argument again. I mean, there's how many people are at the East Homer station, and how many trucks do you have?
We have 1 truck, and like I said, I got 4 positions. When rookies graduate in December, we're gonna have 4 people stationed there.
So, okay, I'm just wondering if you couldn't split resources instead of shut one down, and then you have most protection both ways. But I don't know if that's an option, but I mean, there's got to be some third solution that puts protection both places without totally shutting one down. And I would encourage us to think of the thing we haven't thought of. That's probably the answer. I know that's about as vague as you can get, but typically when we all feel this way, where we're conflicted, there's some other answer that we just haven't fallen on yet. Where if we can split resources, or if we have an extra truck somewhere that we can restation, and maybe an extra person, from 2 different stations, maybe we can man it without shutting down East Homer. Boy, that makes a heck of a lot more sense, and it flips me completely on whether I want to do it or not. If it's minimal to open it up, if we can just find a truck and a couple guys, I know that's a lot harder than it sounds, but if we can bleed small portions from other stations, maybe that's the way that Mr. Pizzolato can get his coverage, because I agree with him. It's desperately needed. I just think to shut one down for it, I have a hard time with. But if we can keep them both open, I'd be cool with that, even if one ran a little at a little lower capacity. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
I could respond?
Yes, sir, go ahead.
What that would do would put us back where we was, because that's how we was. We was running. You see, there's laws we got to follow. There's a state law that says it's called a captain driver law. For every apparatus, you got to have a captain and a driver on it. So what happened was that's what we had there was a captain and driver because we had to follow the law. Well, what the study had said was that station was overlapped. And if you take that personnel and you could have additional ones. So right now, like at that station, the East Homer station, that 4 personnel is your captain and your driver, which is by law, and then you got 2 firefighters. And it put more people on our trucks. We was running at a minimum of 2 people on an engine. Okay, so do the math. We run 3 engines, a ladder and 2 engines to a call. You got 6 people to fight a house fire. Okay, so now at least we run and we got 4 people on the truck. So now we got 12 people. We doubled our manpower at a call.
So you would be actually in non-compliance to do what I just said. So
Yeah, because I can't put just a fireman or
And
something.
once again, then I'm neither a firefighter.
In
or
other
a
words,
member
it would
of
have
PAL.
to be a captain and driver.
Okay.
And you're still looking at, you got to do everything in triplicate because I got 3 shifts. So just to put a captain driver at East Park Station, you'd have to have 3 captains, 3 drivers. And that's where the numbers start getting up there.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Kevin. Mr. Clayton Vazing.
Yes, just briefly, it's been beat pretty hard. Chief, I'm not gonna be able to support, closing one station to open another one. I was opposed to closing East Park when it was originally closed. And, but the figures was there from PAL and also the report that Mr. Tillman read earlier. The only thing I would challenge you and the people around you to hopefully figure a way maybe that if and when Prospect Bridge would be shut down, that we try to find a way to have a unit maybe on East Park, even though it would be just a captain and a driver, to be able to get a unit there and hooked up while waiting for the other people to show up. And I know you said a response time average is about 3.5 minutes, but I don't have to tell you, you know us better than we do that 3.5 minutes is a long time when you're in a house that's burning. I would just challenge you to please look for and see if you can find a way to be able to help Mr. Pizzolato's district and help this council also to find a way maybe to maybe get us some fire service on that island if and when Prospect Bridge ever is closed for a matter of about 2 years. And I know maybe it might be against what what PAL suggests and everything else, but I truly believe that with Prospect Bridge shut down eventually, I think that the traffic and everything else is going to be so horrendous from Prospect to Howard and to Grand Caillou Bridge, Degville Bridge, that is going to be difficult. Is going to be difficult, and to put those people in that position, I believe they're in a poor position right now. But once the traffic becomes worse, I think that we're going to have some serious problems. And it's just a challenge I put on you to hopefully maybe you and your people can find a way to bring to administration, and administration can bring to us a possible solution in the event that we have to close that bridge and it's behind us. Thank you so much for all you do. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Okay, we have a substitute motion on the floor. Does everyone understand it, or should I reread it, please? Reread it, please.
Mr. Tillman moves, seconded by Ms. Williams, that the Budget and Finance Committee send the matter relative to closing the East Park Fire Station back to committee for further evaluation.
Okay, everyone has it? Lock your vote. All in favor of the substitute motion, say aye. Aye. Nay?
No.
1 no. Motion passes. Okay. Continuing on, item 11, continue review of the proposed 2010 budgets for the following funds. And I'll turn it over to Ms. Jamie Alford, Mr. Donald Piku. Okay, Jamie. let's start with page.
Page 61, mosquito abatement. For 2010, the budget is $699,000.
Page 61, in the 2010 proposed budget. You had a
And
pretty
the
book.
highlight is actually on
So
page
good.
63, if you want to look at the highlight.
63.
That's the highlight. Starts on 61.
Okay. 51409, mosquito control. Okay.
The next item is the Finance Department and the Purchasing Division. On page 251, we have a budget of $1,432,000. The major capital item is a new phone system to replace an antiquated system, $7,900, and that would be for purchasing and the warehouse sections.
Questions? Okay,
The
continue.
next item is Information Technologies on page 255, total budget $1,747,000. Under capital, we have one power system, 520, mid-range computer system, $50,000 set aside. This is the annual set aside that we put, sort of like a fire truck. We have a large expense and we put aside some money every year. IBM eServer Blade Center Replacement Blade, $4,800. IBM eServer Blade Center Expansion Cabinet, $20,000. A Sonic Wall NSA 5500 Firewall, $10,000. And 5 personal computers, $10,000.
Okay, I see one light, Mr. Kevin Vazan.
I think the budget's fine, but could you give me another copy of this? I'm missing about 50 pages of this beautiful book. I don't know why. The last 3 items I've been struggling to find a page. I thought I couldn't count, but it turns out the book can't count. So thank you.
No problem.
It's okay. I'm good. My detail book works, but
We were
thank you.
trying to cut back on the budget.
Yeah, we saved some money. Thank you, ma'am.
Sorry about that.
Jamie, I saw that the charge for services are going up $1,876,000. Are we getting new clients or customers, or is the fees are going up?
The fees didn't go up necessarily. What we did is we're starting to allocate based on an hourly basis and trying to give the outside agencies and the ability to use the basic services plus $75 an hour for special services. Every time they pick up the phone and they call on us, it's going to cost them $75 an hour. And this way we didn't have to increase their base rate, but we're going to start charging them for the phone calls.
Right.
There will be a slight increase in some of the fees.
So in other words, the user of the system is going to be paying whoever has the most calls,
And
yeah.
rightly so. It's an internal service fund. It's a business within the government.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. I got one question, Mr. Kevin.
Thanks. I noticed, I was looking through some invoices and things on the IT department for the streaming of the meetings. The charge for that per month was, to me, exorbitant, like $9,000 or $14,000. I looked online because I do this kind of thing in my work all the time. I couldn't even find a way to spend that much money for that same service. I mean, I literally couldn't find a way to do it for a year for that much money, and we're getting charged every month. I'm trying to understand what that charge is related to.
Okay, although I cannot speak for IT, Mr. Neal is here, and he could probably go into more detail. We only have 100 spaces, 100 character spaces to describe the service that we provide. So when you looked at those invoices, you may not have seen the whole picture. For example, we had some people get an invoice and it said purchase 5 laptops. What they didn't see was it was the cost of getting the laptops. It was them arriving, loading the programs up, delivering them, setting them up. They didn't see all that because we only have 100 character spaces. If you want to see the detail, I'm sure his
Well, this
department
is a
will hand
recurring
us-
cost, though. This is every month since we started streaming.
He's here. You wanna
Yeah,
ask
if
him
I
to come?
could, I just.
Mr. Neal?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Neil Prager, Information Technology Manager. I'll be honest with you, I'm not really sure. I would have to look at the detail of, was it on a work order section?
Well, I'm not, Paul's not here, and he and I were going over it together, so I apologize. We can get together afterwards,
Okay,
but
what we have done with all the other departments, if you have any questions, we can just highlight it.
Okay.
Send us a copy, or send us the work order number. And what we do, we go ahead and we print out the entire work order for the 3 quarters that were already sent out.
okay,
All
well,
right, and then
we
it
need to
has
go
all
over
the
because it's
details.
now the new system. The new system will actually make this a heck of a lot easier. It'll already be in the right
Definitely.
format. They won't have to touch it hardly. But we just need to go over it because I hope there's more detail. Because if it's just for putting it on the web, it's crazy.
If I had to guess right now, it's the time it's taken with this old system. When we're gonna have meetings that's gonna go ahead and run 3 to 5 hours, takes an enormous amount of time to convert it. That was one of the things that I spoke to Mr. Berg about with the new equipment coming in, already being on computer as opposed to the VHS tapes. The transfer rate's gonna be a lot shorter.
Right, and I think just that's one of those hidden costs of this older system that I think most people haven't looked at, and just because I've been paying a lot of attention to IT, I noticed it. I mean, we're talking thousands of dollars every month, not like a couple $100. It was thousands of dollars was the charge. Once we get this new system, I'm going to put the gauntlet at your feet to get live streaming as well. So I'm just telling you, that's coming, so y'all can start scratching your heads about it right now. I think this new thing will do it, actually. So.
We're already working in that direction.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Neal. Thank you, sir. Okay, no more questions, Jamie.
Okay, the next item is customer service on page 43. Under capital, we have 7 handheld meter reading devices, $25,000, and 2 desktop computers, $3,000.
Any questions? No questions.
Okay,
Very
on
good.
page 35, Parish President Administration. Under Budget Highlights, the addition of the Public Safety Director, who shall supervise the Houma Police Department, Houma Fire Department, Office of Emergency Preparedness, Juvenile Justice Support Services by parish government to outside agencies having public safety functions, and code enforcement activities. Then we would like to transfer 1 citizen inquiry coordinators, or the problem solver, grade 207, to the Planning Department, which was introduced at a prior meeting.
Okay. No questions. Continue.
Okay, on page 41, accounting.
Plenty questions.
Okay, we have 9 computers, $16,500 for an average of $1,833 apiece. There's 3 laptops and 6 desktops.
What's the reason for that, Jamie?
We replace so many computers every year, and Donald was just explaining that they had some antiquated equipment, and the license had expired on a few of them, so we need to replace them.
Back to 92, 1992?
No, not that far back.
Not that far back.
No, not that far back.
Okay, I don't see any questions.
That's it.
That's it. Tomorrow night. Motion by Mr. Seahan, seconded by Mr. Kevin Vazan. We adjourn. All in favor say aye. Aye. Against? Motion passes. See y'all tomorrow night.